out on Twitch, it's a purple button and it says follow. So if you're watching us on either one of these platforms live right now, please hit one of those two buttons. Red if you're on YouTube, purple if you're on Twitch. One thing I want to talk about real quick is we are also on all the audio platforms as well. You should see it in this graphic here. Literally, we're on Apple Podcasts, we're on Spotify, iHeartRadio. If you guys listen to podcasts on a platform and you notice we're not on that platform, hit me up on social media, email me, whatever. Make a comment on the YouTube. Let us know, because I want to make sure that we can have the podcast on the audio side wherever you guys listen. I also have some announcements to make. I'm super excited about this. Last couple months I've been super hard at work trying to get this album done for you guys. And the people who are going to get first access to this, I put the link right here. That's going to be the people in the Patreon. So make sure you guys are aware of that. Go to patreon.com/JaredSingerLive. You get first access to everything as we start doing some cooler and cooler shit this summer, as well as bonus content, discounts on merch and stuff like that as we start to roll all that kind of stuff out. So make sure you go there. That's where the biggest supporters. If you've already subscribed, if you've already done that and you want to step it up a notch, you can just $3 a month. It's not a lot of money, especially with inflation going up. I didn't raise my prices, still $3 a month, and there's a couple other tiers in there too if you really want to go crazy. All right, we got some ad reads we got to make. Let's get this done. This episode of the podcast, every podcast we do here is sponsored by Tone Vault Audio and Media. Tone Vault Audio and Media was formed as a recording studio business by musicians in active gigging bands. Doing work over the years in multiple facilities as well as in a mobile fashion, simultaneously while playing in live gigging bands, the Tone Vault staff has developed the experience to know why quality, performance, and longevity of cables is important, as well as the demands needed for a great go-to top-of-the-line product for all your professional project needs, as well as live music application. We tried all kinds of cables, and of course we have our favorites. They, however, tend to have a price point that's not so favorable. So we decided to craft our own and make it a little bit more wallet friendly without sacrificing quality. We use these cables ourselves for our studio and music projects, and that includes me. My entire drum set is wired up with these, and we're currently in the process of rewiring the entire podcast studio. They offer a lifetime warranty with a 30-day, zero-risk, money-back guarantee. If you don't like them within that first month, just return them. After that 30 days, it's a lifetime warranty, just like any of the other big names. 24 karat gold contacts, 99% oxygen free, you know the deal. They're absolutely phenomenal. Extravaganza listeners can also use the code 15SINGER, that's 15SINGER, for an extra 15% off any purchase. So go to www.tone-vault.com/JSE and join the Tone Vault family today. This episode of the podcast is also sponsored by Marco V Cigars, the official cigar of the Jared Singer Extravaganza. In 1909, an Italian immigrant named Victor Vito landed on American soil. Despite only having pennies to his name, Victor smoked a cigar to honor his pursuit of opportunity and success. Starting with that first cigar, a tradition was born. In the Vito family, cigars came to represent pride in accomplishments and optimism for the future, and they still do. More than a century later, Victor Vito's great-grandson Marco honors his heritage with Marco V Cigars. Marco and his team's commitment to quality, flavor, and construction have established the company as a premier boutique cigar brand. Every step in the Marco V cigar making process is shaped by a drive for perfection. Farmers in the Dominican Republic and Nicaragua tend to their crops by hand, and the planting, harvesting, and curing are carefully guided by Marco V's tobacco experts. Dedicated research and testing have resulted in a leaf that cures with a rich, complex flavor. Each blend is aged for years to enhance the tobacco's deep natural sweetness, and every bale is inspected 6 times before the cigars are rolled by hand, never put through a machine. Quality still comes from the hands of the artisans. After a final inspection, the cigars are packed and shipped around the world. Overseeing the entire supply chain guarantees that every Marco V cigar yields the perfect celebratory smoke. Victor Vito's 1909 cigar represented pride in himself and his achievements. More than a century later, Marco V honors Victor's legacy with the highest quality cigars on the market. Create your own tradition, salute your achievements and your successes with Marco V cigars. Exclusive for Jared Singer Extravaganza listeners, just for you guys, same deal, baby. Go to marcovcigars.com and use checkout code extravaganza15 to get an extra 15% off of your order. You can order my personal favorite, which is their Palladium, or you can order what I'm smoking on right now, which is their Maduro House Blend. Extremely affordable to begin with, and y'all get another 15% off this motherfucker. This episode of the podcast is sponsored by Bud Ingram Lyle Photography. Bud is a photographer specializing in working with bands, both on stage and off stage. His goal is to catch those special images that reflect the dynamic nature of live music, catching badassery since 1886. He also does portrait work of all kinds, photographing solo models or groups in his studio or on location. And yes, you can afford him. Okay, does all of my work. Extremely great guy, very easy to work with, extremely professional. Go to www.bilphoto.com now and book your photo shoot today. Book's out about 60 to 90 days, so whenever you're listening to this, just make sure that you understand you can't book him for this weekend's gig, you guys. This episode of the podcast is also sponsored by Shooter Lube. Yeah, baby, we're back. Shooter Lube's back, baby. Two-stage cleaning system, military-grade cleaning solvent. The new technology has you cleaning your gun better than ever. Our solvent is designed to penetrate deep into the metal, cleaning carbon buildup in less time than other leading solvents. The extreme weapons oil, that's the second stage. Standard gun lubricants and CLPs are outdated and a thing of the past, you guys. With the new cutting-edge technology, we're creating a new level of protection and lubricant. Unlike other gun oils that just sit there on the surface, extreme weapons oil penetrates deep into the pores of the metal. It forms a bond on and in the metal that does not wipe off, wear off, melt, or evaporate with heavy use. There's free shipping on orders over $50 within the United States, and there's a 100% money-back guarantee on all items. So join the revolution by going to www.shooterlube.com and use promo code SINGER to save 15% at checkout today. Here we go. There we go. I knew it wasn't working. I just couldn't remember how to make it work. Don't blow up the chat.
Blow up the chat.
Oh, man. Happy to have you back, buddy.
Good to be back.
Been a fucking wild couple of months. Seems like nobody can have... what the fuck is going on with my shit? I don't want to turn my shit up anymore. That fucking mic sounds funny. I'm sure it sounds fine to those guys, but it sounds terrible to me for some reason. Yeah, nobody can seem to have a rational conversation about anything lately.
No.
And that's been going on for a while, but specifically what I'm talking about are these fucking crazy abortion arguments that I'm hearing. I think you said something really dope before we started the podcast. You said, right now, it honestly doesn't seem like either side has more than one good, true point, and neither side is actually having good faith arguments. So as a fellow... self-righteous centrist.
I don't know if people would call me center on a lot of things, but depending on what your politics are, you paint me either far right or far left, or I've been accused of everything. That's okay though. But yeah, you're right. I obviously, because of the Roe versus Wade being reversed or possibly being reversed, that's pretty much all I see on my feeds every day. And one of the most annoying things is just the arguments that drive me crazy. Now, I'm not the best debater, but I like to debate. So I like sound arguments as much as possible. And I love fallacies. I love using fallacies. So I'm not trying to be like hypocritical. I think you should be allowed to use fallacies if you're talking shit. But it's the same thing as like, don't talk shit unless you can back it up. Kind of thing, you know. So, but it just seems like almost everybody's having a really dishonest conversation. It's not in good faith, you know. And obviously, you got the far, maybe the far pro-life thing saying, you know, there should be no abortions whatsoever, and you got the far pro-choice who, I mean, now they're pushing all the way to, you know, the full pregnancy. Length of the pregnancy.
And that's my whole thing, why I say I agree with you. It's not a good faith argument, because it's like, come on. I agree. I shouldn't really have an opinion. However, I get an opinion if the baby is a day old. Nobody thinks that men shouldn't have an opinion if we have a baby together and it's born, and then you turn around and murder it the next day after it's born. nobody thinks men should keep their mouth shut then.
And and that's exactly why I think that argument is terrible.
So that's where I 100% agree with you. And I think I did hear Rogan say something like this too. We need to, and I think all the women of the country should be the ones to decide this. But no, we need to decide, like, when does this become unethical and immoral? Is it 6 months? Is it 3 months? I don't fucking know, but y'all need to figure that shit out so we can start having rational conversations. That's all
and what I was saying, there's one side, there's the other side, the extreme, but almost all of us, in reality, probably a majority of us, fit somewhere in the middle, right? And so and why can't we have an honest conversation to figure out what that is? And I think it's just because of the way we are programmed, as if we have some kind of uploaded code now. Society, maybe it's a human flaw or something like that, but we can't have rational conversations or think. We automatically jump to the conclusions that other person is arguing because they want to take rights away or something. It's like automatic, the worst case scenario. It's not, we're never approaching it as, I know you're a good person, I know you mean well. I'm a good person, I mean well. So we have to start doing that in order to get to to an understandable point, and we can solve whatever this issue is. Nothing's going to be perfect, though. Obviously, there's always going to be things that are outliers or unintended consequences. Obviously, I really struggle with the dishonesty that's going on with these arguments, though, and they don't know maybe even know they're doing it. I'm sure some of them do, but most of them just repeating a meme they saw or some other buzz phrase or whatever.
So what is the one good argument that you do think the Republicans or the right has right now?
Yeah, I catch myself saying the same thing, Republicans versus Democrats in this situation, because it's gotten political. But, we know there's some Democrats that are also pro-life.
Right.
Right.
They're hard enough Christians, they're pro-life.
And let's just be honest, the right has shifted more to the center. I think they're a lot more understandable about a lot of things now, contrary to what you see on TV. But I think I'll just start with what I think the argument that the right makes that's kind of wrong. Like or not the right, but the pro-life. And it's not saying that their belief is wrong per se. It's just that it's not good for the debate, and that's using religion.
Right.
So if you're arguing from a standpoint that it's religion, I think it's okay to say, because you believe in your religion, you believe that's against the foundations of your beliefs, right? It's okay to have that opinion, but when you're arguing with somebody that doesn't have that same religious belief, then you basically have to reduce the argument all the way back down to, does God exist? What's the point of religion? Well, you kind of get away from this because you have to get back to the root of the disagreement.
I mean, in my philosophy, just like the gay issue, sorry, that sounded really weird. The Christians' issue with gay people is, I said, well, just don't be gay then. If it's against your religion to be gay, then don't be gay.
I agree. Yep.
But your religion has no place in somebody else's life. You know what I mean? It's as simple as that for me. And that's where I fall on this issue too. Like, okay, if it's against your religion to have an abortion, then don't have an abortion. Period. Like, that's where the argument ends. I know that sounds overly simplified for a lot of Republicans, but for me, that is how simple it is.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I get it, but I look at it from like sample. If you're going head to head with somebody in a debate, like that's going to go nowhere. Like I said, it doesn't even become about abortion. It becomes about religion, and so that's why I don't like that argument. The pro-choicers or the pro-lifers, though, it's funny because the pro-lifers don't really have that many arguments, and maybe I'm just not thinking of them or remembering them, but they just mainly have those two, right? That life begins at conception, and that the religious one.
The only other one I've ever heard, and this is the one that actually, and it was from an atheist, so I know it wasn't from, and it was somebody I know very well, and so I knew that it wasn't. I knew it wasn't a religious argument disguised in logic. It was purely this person's political beliefs and their understanding of rights. And they said, no, it's the first thing guaranteed in the Constitution. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's why. Boom, done. End of story. And I was like, wow, that's really, again, really simple. But at least I understand where you're coming from. And whether I agree or not, I can at least respect that, because that's a good faith argument that makes perfect sense and it tracks. And it doesn't have an emotional basis to it unless you're emotional about the Constitution, which many people are. But it made perfect sense. That math added up to me, even if I didn't agree with it.
Right. And see, I used to think of myself kind of more along like whether it's constitutional or not constitutional. And then I realized that's really not where I'm coming from either, anyway, because you could bring back slavery in the Constitution for whatever reasons. All of a sudden, let's just say the crazy alt-right neo-Nazis get in power and they somehow sway the votes or rig an election, and all of a sudden now they've brought back slavery and it's in the Constitution. Yeah, I'm not arguing from a Constitution point.
It's still wrong.
That's why I stopped kind of using the Constitution as an argument.
Sure.
The only time I will use it is if somebody else is really using the Constitution. Because then I can show, okay, you believe in the Constitution and you're arguing from a constitutional standpoint, but your belief doesn't hold up something else that you're saying, which is in the Constitution.
Right.
So that's the only time I would try to use the constitutional argument, because I honestly believe it doesn't matter what's written down for it to be right or wrong.
Right.
And as far as I'm concerned, as a libertarian and believing in freedom and all that stuff, I don't need somebody to tell me what my rights are.
Which is funny, not in like a mocking sort of way, but like kind of an ironic sort of way, which is the way they got Roe v. Wade passed back then was not making abortion legal. Abortion has never been legal. It is always technically, it's also never been illegal, but it was, the government has no right to the relationship or things that happen between you and your doctor. It's medical privacy. Just like they don't have a right to do anything between you and your attorney or you and your spouse, unless the government can reasonably prove in court and get a warrant obtained because they suspect both of you as part of a crime. So you and your attorney, you and your doctor. I don't believe they have the right to those medical records in any other way, shape, or form. And that is a constitutionally protected right, is privacy. That's literally one of the amendments, is you need a warrant in order to do a search or a seizure, any of that kind of shit. And technically that's considered a search. You're searching through records, right? You're gaining access to do a search to either a home or personal information. So that's why I said it's kind of ironic, because that is exactly how they got that done in the first place. So I think, well, fuck what I think. Who gives a shit what I think?
Oh, I got to track though. As far as the one good argument that I believe that the pro-life has is if they come from a standpoint where they're saying that is a life, right? And that at some point we got to say when that life has rights. So I think when they argue from that standpoint, that's a good starting point. I think that's a good faith argument, and I think that it really comes down to a universal basic understanding of morality. And I know, like, a lot of people push back on morality with me because they think that morality is subjective. And I honestly do believe that some things that are considered immoral or moral or immoral might be subjective. But I think that we also all have, because I mean, obviously some people believe that they can murder people and not feel bad about it and whatever, right? But generally they don't want to be murdered.
Sure.
So they're admitting, by saying they don't want to be murdered, they're saying that it is immoral. It's wrong, right? So we all kind of agree we don't want to be murdered, though some of us will murder other people. But that's where I'm coming from. So would you, if somebody could go back in time and convince your mother to have an abortion and you were never born, would you like that?
And when is it okay?
Right. So
is it 7 years old? Well, everyone says no. Is it 5 years old? No, that's absurd. Is it 1 year old? Well, no, dude, you're being irrational. Okay, is it the day after you're born? No, of course not. Okay, so when? When does it turn? And this is, honestly, again, I'm not passing legislation. I don't feel comfortable actually making a decision on this. But I want to know for my own curiosity and for the potential of me in the future being a potential father. Like, when did you murder my kid if you had an abortion? Like, that's what I want to know. Like, when does it go from aborting a fetus to killing a child? That's what I want to know. And that's the one thing I do think you're right about as far as the conservatives go. Or the right, I should say, or whoever it is.
Well, let's just say pro-choice, pro-life.
Okay, the pro-lifers, right? So that's the one thing I do understand with their argument is they're trying to define that. And they've defined it based on something, meaning like a heartbeat or dreams or whatever.
Yeah, brainwaves.
And a timeline. So this is a timeline because of this. Again, I can wrap my head around that. Even if I don't agree with them, I can at least understand exactly the argument they're making.
Yeah, and
I don't understand. It seems like the pro-choicers, which I am a pro-choicer, but my fellow pro-choicers, it doesn't seem like they're willing to put a time on it. And that makes me uncomfortable because now I'm going, wait a minute, like stand here and make your call because you're gonna win if you just define it. Like, you'll easily win. Just define it. Pick a line. And
I think that...
God, I feel like I'm just repeating myself.
I think we're just so divided politically and ideologically that if somebody is pushing back at you or pushing back towards you, you don't want to give them any compromise then, right? So you want to leave that open to... You don't want to give or cede any ground to the opposite side.
Right.
Even though you might be able to be talked rationally into the same conversation if you were alone in a room with someone, right? As opposed to public discourse where everything you tweet or everything you post is going to, come back at you and now you're not on the side and whatever, right? So I think that's why why there isn't any give or honest conversation on that. And I don't see conservatives or the pro-lifer as being disingenuous about that feeling or that idea. I think that's an important thing. We, as humans, maybe we should have this conversation on when is it a human life? When do we value that life?
Right. Yeah. When does that person's human rights kick in?
Yeah, I feel that's a completely fair argument to make. And I think it needs to be defined.
Yeah, and I think it should be left up to the women because they're the ones that carry the child. But they need to get together somehow, some way. We need to figure out how to get 150 million women in this country, which there's not that many adult women. That's all the women in the country.
Yeah,
but we need to figure out how to get that many women, whatever it is, 100 million, 50 million, whatever, 75 million.
And see,
we got to figure out how to execute that part of the game plan because
I would push back on this because on that idea, and not saying that, hey, men should have a say. I'm not even saying that. I'm just saying if you're looking at from like
I know what you're saying. Women can't make rational decisions.
Yeah, no. I'm just saying like
jokes.
I don't believe in the
jokes.
I don't believe in the process solves these kind of issues, right? So, like I said, if we just said, okay, only women can decide, right? And then what happens because right now, I don't know if you know the statistics or not, but I've read something like it's 59% of women are pro-choice, 38% are, pro-life. So, I mean, even though...
That's a pretty tight margin.
Yeah, right.
That shocks me.
Right. So here's the thing is what do they say? 20%?
Guys, I don't want to be a dick to Jamal, but please just fact check that for us. Put the stat in the chat for us, please. I don't want to look it up and derail this conversation, but I do want to make sure that we're not like saying bullshit. He's usually super good with these stats, like uncannily accurate. So I do trust you, but please put that in the chat.
And I guarantee,
as soon as possible. Please.
Here's some of the problems with these kind of polls, though, is depending on where you go.
How many did they ask?
How many you ask? And
did you survey Dallas?
Yeah,
which is a pro-life state, but a pro-choice city. You know what I mean?
And so I'm not just picking. I didn't pick a statistic that favors my argument at all. But I'm using statistics to prove a point because I don't really care what it is, because I don't believe that, like I said, the democratic process is the solution in morality.
You don't have a horse in this race.
Well, I want to get to that too, because I'm not saying that I do for any reasons, but
technically,
I just don't want to say because I'm a man I don't have a say or whatever. I'll get to that in a second.
Keep going, dude.
Now I got a little off track here, but so here's my thing: is even if you said only women could vote, you're still going to have a pro-life and pro-choice debate, especially when, I know it might, to some people, they might say, well, I'm good, I'm still on this, I'm nursing this one. Some people might say, well, that's a majority, that's a huge majority, but in essence, it's really not. And consider, because I mean, really, it's 60-40 if you kind of round them both up to the nearest one, because there's some undecideds. And they say, like, I think it's 20%, I think it's 1 in every 5 people change their mind on abortion. Their stance changes for whatever reason. They get older, maybe they think differently about something, or being subject to new information, whatever, right?
Well, people do tend to get more conservative as they get older.
Right, and it could be anything. So, you know, when I look at 20% of people change their mind, it goes, who knows which way it tends to go. I'm not going to speculate on that, but it's kind of like an ever-flowing thing. And the reason
we're just double checking the American women, percentage-wise, of American women are pro-choice versus pro-life. He quoted,
just one
like
I saw,
60, almost 60, 59%.
60-40, 59-38. If you Google 59-38, you'll find
it's essentially 60-40. 60% of women are pro-choice, 40% of women are pro-life. I'm shocked that it's that close. I would have guessed it was like 75-25 or even 85-15. Like, I'm blown away that there's actually that many women that are pro-choice.
Some of the concerns that I have is depending on where you go to get your stats too. And I don't remember to disclaimer.
Shout out to Teresa. Thank you, by the way. Thank you, Teresa. I appreciate you being here to do that for us.
Just part of it is, as a disclaimer, like, I try not to get biased information on stuff because I know, like, the right might or the left might have a skewed thing saying 90% of people believe guns should be outlawed,
sure,
you know, and that's like, that's not really true. I know plenty of people that don't. Like, most of the people I know don't believe that.
And you can pay scientists money to come up with bullshit too. Like, we know Big Tobacco did that. Like, it's factual. It's proven in court. Like, they're willing to do whatever, including politicians, willing to do whatever they need to do to get their deal done.
Yep.
Like, at the expense of the better well-being of the entire population. So, they don't give a fuck.
I would only ask that people that are going to fact check me on it, go ahead, fact check me. If you're going to fact check me, at least try to be objective about your sources.
Sure.
I'm not going to attack any sources. I'm just saying that that's there. We all know that there's some bias. So, you know, it could be that my numbers are less or more, I don't know, but that's just what I saw. Because
I just remember when I made the fucking statistical argument about the death tax. I was like, well, I thought blah blah blah, and you were like, no, and I said, well, I thought it was 17% or something like that. And
I was like, no, it's like insanely low,
0.17%. And I was like, holy fuck! It was literally the difference of a decimal point being there or not being there that dramatically changes my perception of those things. And you were incredibly accurate. It was exactly 0.17% should be the death tax, whereas what I had read, which was 17%, either the person who wrote that article missed the decimal point, or the person who edited it, something happened there. And it could have been an innocent
and there's
mistake,
been political reasons why.
Where I had read that or gotten that information, I was way off. And you were having uncanny ability when you do decide to quote stats. And you've also done this on podcasts. You will self-stat check later. So if you were wrong, you'll go into the comment section later and be like, I was wrong about this. This is what it actually is. So you have an incredibly high amount of integrity when it comes to quoting stats and shit like this. Like, if you're wrong, again, it's still in good faith and you're not being disingenuous. You're just simply off a little bit. So, please fact check that.
And the thing is, the reason why I'm like that is because I have been wrong. I've had total contrary positions to what I have now, and I've been wrong, and I have the thing is like a lot of people will double down on being wrong. And I know I've done that before. And I know that I've done, but I'm like, I can't, if anybody's to take me serious, I got to be serious with myself. And I don't like being wrong. So I'm going to fact check myself, but so to go back to that argument then, as far as like the 60-40 or 59-38, whatever, like, I don't think that ends the debate. I think we're still in the same exact situation. Because, like I said, democracy by itself is not a solution to ethical or moral problems. Because, like I said, what if it was the other way around? Would the pro-choice people be advocating for a democratic process if they knew the numbers were not in their favor? Because it's easy to say. It's easy to say because right now the numbers are in my favor, and I'm 100% democratic process because that it's working in their favor. It's just like the electoral college thing. It's like it's cool when it's cool, and it's not when it's not.
Yeah.
And
like right now, the biggest people that want to end the filibuster are just the Democrats right now. But literally, if you just go back 10 or 20 years, like old school Democrats with huge amounts of integrity were literally making speeches to not get rid of the filibuster because it's what the Republicans wanted. So you're 100% correct. They're against the democratic process whenever it goes against their policy being passed.
And this is why I don't like the democratic process when it comes to those kind of things, because again, I don't think it's in good faith. I believe that the people saying it at the time believe that it's in good faith, but if it was the other way around, no. And so,
holy fuck, dude. So Gallup poll from 2018 to 2021, it's even closer. 52% pro-choice, 43% pro-life. That's even closer.
No, it could be.
So that leaves fucking 90. That leaves about 5% undecided then as well. That is insane. If you would have asked me, I would have never guessed that.
Well, it makes sense because of how our country is divided politically, and so since a lot of now, granted, there are pro-life people on the conservative side, and there are pro-choice.
Were you surprised when you saw that stat?
It was really hard for me because I was looking at it and they didn't have it. You had to really dig to find a clear breakout of women, pro-life women versus, because there was all these other.
Honestly, Gallup and Pew are kind of the only surveys I actually trust, because they'll do the same survey multiple times across the country to make sure they're not getting a biased sample size.
Yeah,
they're both of those companies.
And I read that like when I said that, I read that 1 in 5 changes their opinion on this.
That's 20%.
That's 20%. But I don't.
Holy fuck.
How do I know that's really true either? Right. But I do try to look it up, and I try to be honest about what I'm looking at. Right. So, and anybody watching this show, I hope, if you don't know, I'm not left or right on this stuff. I might have some things that I agree with the right on, and I have some things that I agree with the left on. So, but I do also, disclaimer right now, because the left has the power and the left has gotten very more vocal and in my opinion, more over the top. They get a lot of my ire right now. And when George Bush, when the Patriot Act and all that stuff was going on, it was the neocons and the Republicans that I couldn't stop posting about.
Me too. Me too, exactly. That's the other thing, is like I come off like I defend Trump now, which I don't.
Right.
I never actually have defended Trump. I try to play devil's advocate as often as I can to have a genuine conversation, right? Make sure it's coming from a good faith argument. Like, well, what about, come on.
Yep.
But I'm with you, bro, because I hated the oil tycoons, the Bushes, the Dick Cheney war hawk, the fucking even going into the first Obama. I voted for Obama in his first term because I desperately wanted to keep McCain out, because if we would have put McCain in there, we would have been bombing everybody.
So get this. I think it's funny.
Openly racist. He called people chinks and gooks. Like, what the fuck are you doing, dude? Like,
listen,
you can't say that shit.
Yeah, like,
I mean, I can say it because I'm a fucking independent YouTuber, but as a politician, you're not supposed to be saying shit like that, dude. Especially when you're running for president, you fuck.
Well, get this now. So I have lost more friends over a man I never voted for because they thought I was a Trump supporter. or because I voted for him. And that's funny because I never voted for him. So, and I've lost hundreds of friends over it, at least on Facebook, right? And the funny thing was when I actually voted for Obama, but I wasn't being called a racist until I voted for a black man.
That is crazy.
To me, it's like my world is so weird. It's like Twilight Zone.
So that is okay. So we were talking about this earlier, and I want to pause here and really hit this point. I never thought about it that way, but it's exactly what I went through too. I voted for Obama, but all of a sudden, anytime I disagreed with him, I was called a racist. Yep. And that only happened starting in his second term. That never happened in his first term. I also didn't disagree with him very much in his first term. I really didn't start seeing him do shady shit until his second term. And we could possibly get into what those shady actions were later if we want to go down that road. I just want to make this quick point and hammer on it. And then if I'm criticizing him, I'm called a racist. And then if I would retort by going, I voted for him. And they'd go, yeah, that's just because of your white guilt. I'm like, fuck you, man. Like, I did not vote for him because he was black. I voted for him because hope you can believe in. I voted for him because can you smell what Barack is cooking? Like, I fell for all of the shit. I voted for him because he said when they tried to use his weakness, you don't have experience. You're a junior senator. And he weaponized that like a great person would do in that situation. He said, that's the fucking point. We don't want more of your same old bullshit. We don't want another 20 years of the Clintons and the Bushes. This is what people don't realize, man. 1980, Ronald Reagan gets elected. His vice president is George H.W. Bush. They're in office for 8 years. Then, 88, George H.W. Bush gets elected. That means a Bush is in the White House for 12 consecutive years. Then, the Clintons are in there for 8 years. And then George H.W. Bush's son, George W. Bush, goes in. Okay? So now we've got from 1980 to literally 2008. So that's 18 years of a Bush or a Clinton being in the White House. Sorry, that's 28 years. My math is up. That was 28 years. From 1980 to 2008, you had a Bush or a Clinton in the White House. Then even when Obama finally got in there, he even brought Clinton in, Hillary as the fucking Secretary of State, which I felt like was a slap in the face, but I also kind of understood it. But my point is like, when they tried to use that against him, that's what he weaponized. He goes, the American people are sick of 28 years of Bushes and Clintons. It's an oligarchy.
Right.
And is what people don't want to acknowledge or admit is that they were so fucking pissed off after Obama, they did it again with Trump. We voted in, the American people voted in an unexperienced politician 2 times in a row. Once with Obama and once with Trump. Because we're sick and tired of the same old status quo. That's what people need to be thinking about when it comes to those 2 elections. But you're 100% correct. To get the train back on the track is I didn't get called a racist until I started disagreeing with Obama, even though I voted for him. And then when I would tell people that, well, dude, fuck you, I voted for him. They'd go, but that's just because of your white guilt. I'm like, dude, well, they would find some
Jewish,
way to do it. I don't have white guilt. I'm Jewish, bro. I have some American guilt because of what we did to the natives, which are also, I'm technically a native as well. But it's like, damn, bro, y'all are fucking dumb. So, anyways, let's get this train back on the tracks. So we're talking about the democratic process not being necessarily the best way to resolve this issue, but I don't really see, other than if you're talking about bringing it to the judicial process, bringing it back to the courts, because you might be right, dude, especially now with Teresa putting these stats in here. If it's 52-43, so even women are split on this issue, they're barely winning the argument on the pro-choice side for women. I imagine men are inverted on that, probably. I would just guess. Maybe they're not. I don't know. Teresa,
I did not
feel free to throw that one up.
I didn't look that up.
I would not be surprised if men are almost exactly inverted.
And to be honest with you, I didn't look it up because the argument I was trying to look at and analyze was the only women should vote.
There you go.
Okay, and so then where do we go with that?
Train's officially back on the tracks.
So now, like I said, and maybe there's an argument that I'm forgetting. With the pro-life, it's usually the religious one or the moral one, which some people might mix those 2 together, but you really
can't be moral if you don't have religion in your life.
Fuck you guys. Some of the best people I know are atheists.
Yeah,
Eat shit.
I think religion.
Some of the worst people I know are Christians.
Religion may utilize morals and might teach some people, moral foundations. But yeah, you can have morals regardless of what religion you have, or if you don't have religion. So the only time you should use a religious argument is against another person who you feel is also of the same religion or whatever, that you feel like they're maybe misinterpreting the message of God or whatever, right? So at least you're having a theological debate. That's really the debate that's going on. Now, when you look at the pro-life, man, they've got dozens of arguments. Dozens. Like the stuff that I see, even stuff like, the whole, only women should have the right to say, right? And I could go with that if I honestly thought that that's what they really were thinking, or if that was really a sound argument. Because, like I said, what happens if a majority of women want
keep going
an abortion ban? Then you're going to be mad because you still believe in this fundamental right to have an abortion. Just like I said, compared to slavery, just because a majority believes something doesn't mean that the minority isn't right, or the minority isn't going to fight something or still believe what they believe.
So you just changed my mind, because here's the analogy that hit me as you were explaining this. What if the proposal was, we're going to castrate all rapists and child predators, which 95% of them are men? And then somebody brought up the argument, well, only men should make this decision because we're the ones with dicks. You don't understand what it's like to lose your balls or your dick or blah, blah, blah. That's a dumb argument to make.
Yeah.
Like, no. Anybody, you don't need balls to understand how unethical chemical castration or physical castration could be of a male. Like, you don't need the balls for that argument. No. Or do you? Honestly,
I believe most of the people that use that argument are meaning well. But I think...
Shit, I made it. Genuinely.
But yeah, I think people genuinely make it, but I don't think it... My argument is that it's not a sound argument, because if it's based on principles, it shouldn't be about, democracy, the majority rules. Because your principles are your principles. You believe this or you don't believe this. If you think it's right or wrong, you should still stand by that. You should still fight against it, no matter if a majority thinks of it or not. Obviously, you want to stand up for minorities, right? It's not, and you can stick up for majorities too, but it seems like when it's convenient, and I don't like that. It should be based off principles. I don't know if I've explained that the best, but
I think I know what you mean, though. It should be based on principles. Whether you're right or wrong doesn't really have an argument in this debate. It's more about, does your argument have a principled, sound reasoning behind it? And if that is the truth, then we can establish you are arguing in good faith, because I can start to empathize or sympathize with your case now, because it makes fucking sense, because it's from a place of good faith. Whereas a lot of people, both sides, are making irrational arguments. They're not willing to come from a place of good faith. They're not willing to admit that they're wrong or lose any ground on this. I think pigeonhole everything.
I also think it's like, it's an argument where like you don't really have any stake in it. Like if the majority, even if it's the smallest majority, or on your side, it's easy to say, yeah, the majority should decide. But then you're making it about a democratic process versus actually whether something's right or wrong, right?
Well, and honestly, in America, our entire system is actually to set up to protect against the simple majority.
Right. Yeah.
That's the whole fucking point.
And that's the thing is, okay, then, because it's about your basic rights, the protection of the individual rights. And so if you talk...
I was right, dude. It's almost exactly inverted. So women are 52% pro-choice to 43% pro-life. Men, it's 45-50 the other way.
Yeah, I can see that.
Incredible. I'm not surprised by that one. I'm really not. And I don't think, maybe I'm being optimistic. Maybe I'm being naive. There's a very good chance both of those statements are true. But I don't believe those 45% of men who, or I'm sorry, the 50% of men who are pro-life, I don't believe it's nefarious and they want to control women's bodies. I don't believe that's where. No. I really do believe,
that's
like you said.
That's another one of the arguments I want to address too. Yep.
They think they're being good Christians and obeying God, or that's the way they were raised, or hey man, if it was my baby, I really want a kid. I haven't had a kid yet. Me and my wife have been trying for a few years. If suddenly she got pregnant and then changed her mind and aborted the baby, that would devastate me. Like literally it would hurt me as a man. Like I'd be like, fuck, I wanted that baby. Even if she didn't want it, fuck, she could have had it, given it to me, and left because I wanted that baby. Boy or girl, I wanted a baby. That sounds insane, but it's not. That's a real feeling I have. Like, I want to have a baby. If you don't, like, can I have it? Can I keep it?
I believe that most people would. I do believe that most people would agree with that sentiment. It means something to.
And that was going to be my genuine question: was if you were to put a percentage on dudes, being a dude, having toured, been a professional musician, so you've had lots of conversations across the country. Put a percentage on it. How many men do you actually think are that old school misogynist? A woman belongs in the kitchen, and she can't make. Because I would say it's like 2%.
I don't know where that's at. There's
just guess.
There's
just
still
take a guess.
I have no idea. I would say it's probably more than 2%. That I mean, obviously where
they're actually misogynists,
right? We have a more egalitarian society now, so I think most men understand that women work too. You know, they can't just be stay at home and stuff, right?
I've literally met 3 people like that are actually like that in my entire life. Most of the dudes that make those jokes are totally fucking kidding, and they would do anything to keep their wife because they understand their wife is the fairer, is the better half. They're the fairer sex, and without them, we would fall into fucking chaos. Like literally, women make us better.
Right.
This is what most men that I know say. Like, nah, dude, my wife makes me a way better.
And the thing is, we joke around about all kinds of things that are. They're not real. It's just humor, and it's humor because it is not real. Sometimes that's what makes it funny, right? But and you know, and people will joke amongst themselves. Like women will still make those kind of jokes to themselves. The same with men will make stupid jokes. But regardless, like if we go back to the democratic process and we say that men should, the people that say the hardcore men should not have a say. Okay, let's try this experiment. What if it was 50-50 and you needed a tiebreaker?
Fuck. Got you.
Right? So then you have, okay.
So literally, let's just work this out. So let's say it's 100 million adult women that make this vote, and 50 million say yes, 50 million say no.
And you need a tiebreaker.
That tie?
Right.
It's the guys.
Right. Right. Exactly. But here's
that sucks.
But I mean, that's not a realistic scenario. To be fair, that's not a realistic. But this is just a thought experiment on whether you really truly believe in the democratic process and what you're actually arguing. Because I think if, like I said, if you are for the majority because you're in the majority, and you're for the democratic process because you think you're a win, or do you really believe in it? So if you really believed in the democratic process, you'd be like, okay, men can be a tiebreaker.
Well, what about the idea that the democratic process will prove itself over time, meaning that this is something we could consistently vote on every 10 to 20 years. So right now, our country might be pro-life, but 30 years from now, we might wisen up.
That's kind of the system we have, right?
Right. Yeah. Like that's what I'm getting at. Because a lot of people believe that's what makes the democratic process work, is it's something that can consistently be re-evaluated over and over again. I mean, you could do it every year if you wanted.
But see, okay, now that we know that a majority of men may be pro-choice, those people on that side that want the tiebreaker would see that isn't going to work out for their side, and so they would be like, no, I don't want that, and the other side would see.
But my point to those stats was, if you put them together, it's basically 50-50.
Right. It's close.
The country is essentially 50-50 on it, which blows my mind. I never would have guessed it was that close.
But going back to my point, as far as destroying the mindset of having that argument and actually following it through to see if you truly do believe it, if it's a sincere belief, if you knew the tiebreaker was going to vote the opposite way, would you be going, we need a tiebreaker? Unless it's something you really don't care about, then it's like, because I know when being in a band, sometimes you got the drummer, the guitar player, about you vote on, like, what are we going to do? And you're then the fifth vote, and then it's like, if you really don't care, it's not that big of a deal, then let's have you decide, and I'm gonna be cool with whatever the group says. But I think when it comes with emotional issues like this, especially the stuff that regards around rights and rights, basically morals and rights, you don't leave it to that. You fight for the things you believe. So I just think that argument is a terrible argument to make.
Which is why it was decided in the Supreme Court in the first place, because they probably came to this conclusion. And that's what I've noticed a lot in these patterns when we start to really dive into the sociological patterns of our forefathers and their politics and shit, is that whether we liked their decision or not, they were extremely thoughtful. They were well-read, they were well-educated, and they were all very good philosophers. So probably, I'm going to actually guess that they figured out exactly the argument you're making now, which is this is not something we can put in the Senate to vote on.
It's a very complicated issue because, like I said, it involves in this reason, it does revolve around a human's life, whether people want to think that baby is a life or not. There's a reason why they made the ruling the way they did, because it is a complicated issue. And I don't know if we'll ever get down to the bottom of it, right? I don't even know the right answer in this.
Neither do I, right? And I think that's the one thing that most people need to admit more than anything else is echo what we're saying now is none of us actually know what the right answer is. We err on the side of what we feel is caution, right? The Christians err on the side of caution. I don't know, man. You're killing something that's going to become a life. So that sounds like murder to me, and I'm going to go to hell if I support you doing that. I get that. Again, so don't have an abortion. I get it. Don't endorse it. I even understand if you want to fill out a form to opt out so your tax dollars don't go towards that. I get that kind of shit. But my biggest argument against this and the conservatives is prohibition has never fucking worked ever on any single issue once. And if you can find me one, I'll suck your dick. Because it's never going to happen. And prohibition doesn't fucking work. The only thing you're going to do is create back alley black market abortions, and women are going to die now.
But I'm even more not cool with.
But you know what I mean?
Is it truly like a prohibition issue? And I'm just thinking this out now that you said that because it made me think about it. I agree, prohibitions don't work. But is it? But you could say the same thing. Prohibition on murder never works. So why have a law?
Because here's the difference, right? And I'm actually going to set you up to spike this back home, and then we can move to the next subject. You made this point right before we started the podcast. Here's the deal. Right now, at any time during her pregnancy, a girl can take enough pills, drink enough booze, and self-terminate that pregnancy. There's no way of regulating that or prosecuting that. If you codify this and define it by a strict amount of time, and then a woman has a natural miscarriage for whatever reason, you say it's 18 weeks, Mr. Republican. You over here in this fucking because it's only fucking what is it, 28 weeks? Is that how long the total pregnancy is? It's fucking technically 10 months.
I'm not a biologist.
I can't do the math in my head, but I know it's actually more than 9 months. We say 9 months because it's 9 full months. The baby's born in the 10th month. I know that much. I think it's 28 weeks. That sounds right because it's basically.
And
a little over
what you're arguing is, and to be fair, I didn't get to say.
Why does 28 not sound right? Jesus Christ,
I don't
Teresa,
know.
if you're still watching, please correct my stupid ass and tell me how many fucking weeks a total pregnancy.
So to be fair,
is.
because the pro-life only have two arguments, the main ones that I see, and there might be more, I just don't know. I did say what I did think their one good argument was, so I will say what I think the pro-choicers one good argument is just what you're stating now. Is I don't think it's truly enforceable. I don't think that
it's not ethically enforceable. That's the important distinction between this argument.
Yeah.
Because, and I'm going to set you up for this, because if a woman has a natural miscarriage past your arbitrary timeline, because that's what they are right now, they're essentially arbitrary. Each state just randomly picks a date based on what they think means a life. Brain waves at a certain level. Meaning dreams or whatever, the heartbeat bill, whatever. Fine, I get that. At least you're trying to define it. We beat that horse to death.
They're trying to make it not arbitrary. But
what if a woman has a natural miscarriage after that, and then how do you regulate that? Do you You go ahead. You explained it so much better.
Yeah,
how do you regulate that and enforce
even if
that?
it's not just a general miscarriage?
But I'm saying hypothetically it is.
Well,
the line you said was genius. Oh, ma'am, we need to... That's what it was.
So let me get to it. Yeah.
Ma'am, we need to inspect your vagina.
Yeah, we need to see if you had an abortion. Like, do we want that kind of... Like, what happens if somebody has a miscarriage and they get mistaken for having an abortion?
She already feels horrible enough.
Like, how are you going to enforce that? It's like, how far do we want to go with this law? I mean, right now I know the laws are basically like, well, you can't have a physician do it.
40 weeks, sorry. I knew I was an ass when I said 28.
You couldn't have a physician do it, right? And so by outlawing physicians doing it, then you could get kind of around some of those abortions that are happening. But let's be real. That's if you want to get rid of abortion, you have to try to tackle the non-physician abortions then after that, don't you?
Which, again, will never happen.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Now, I agree. When it comes to things like sex trafficking, murder, and rape, prohibition clearly doesn't work to stop those things. Mm-hmm. But it's not worth giving up on them. That's the difference.
Yep.
That's the difference. It's like creating laws to fight sex trafficking. They definitely don't create more sex trafficking. That's what I was trying to say. So by trying to make abortion illegal, right? You're trying to save lives. But what's probably going to happen is more adult women are going to die in back alley abortions. Because again, we've already been through this. So it's going to create more suffering and more death.
I don't know that that whole story is true. Obviously, people have died from back alley abortions. I think, from what I've read, those numbers are highly inflated for
political
purposes to win that argument. So
how many? So then, to me, I don't. So now we got to go back and go rehash the same exact argument. So how many back alley abortions and how many women need to die in alleys doing the coat hanger thing before we say this isn't worth it?
Right.
Now we're literally evaluating human life and how many people are worth dying over this argument.
So,
for me, none. Let's keep it to a minimum. So if a woman can safely have an abortion with a doctor, let her do that. Because the odds of her dying are almost nil. Period. That's how I just think it is a simple argument. I don't think it's as complicated as everyone's making. Because they're not arguing in good faith. Yeah,
they're not arguing in good faith. The issue with so now we've established, like, or maybe we haven't yet, the fact that how do you enforce a true making abortion illegal? Like, how far can you possibly go with this? And what does that law look like? What does that government look like? How far are we going to go with this, right? Now, obviously, there's going to be some people that would be, obviously complete ban on it and would probably try to put women in prison for having an abortion, which would mean that some women who just had natural miscarriages would go to prison too, being accused of or whatever. We don't want that kind of society where we're looking too much into people's houses, because the problem, you have a kid, you might not even show that you're pregnant. How does anybody even know?
So again, this argument just directly comes back to the initial Roe v. Wade. It's fucking a privacy issue. This is what it boils down to. Well, this is probably how they got to the original Roe v. Wade conclusion in the Supreme Court. Is they had this,
because the government has to overstep in order to do it. Yes.
Thank you. I guarantee you, the more we talk about this, I guarantee you, sitting in that fucking courtroom with just judges who, again, are great philosophers, they're well-read, they're incredibly fucking thoughtful. Mm-hmm. These are the debates and arguments they had with each other. These are the things they figured out when they read it. There's no way the government can properly enforce this without invading people's privacy. Therefore, we have to curb the power and the reach of the federal government. It's none of their fucking business. Period. End of story. That makes me sound like an extreme right-winger if we're talking about guns or other shit. But as soon as we're talking about abortion, it actually makes me sound like a super left-winger. Mm-hmm. And that's why I've made the argument over and over again. The reason I'm liberal is because of my conservative beliefs. And the reason I'm conservative is because of my liberal beliefs. Mm-hmm. That sounds like I'm literally making shit up.
No,
but if you
take
the logic train down
mm-hmm.
its perfect tracks, that's where it leads you. If you believe in small government because you're a conservative, mm-hmm. you should believe in a small government even when it goes against anything else, including drugs or abortion or any of this other bullshit. Same thing with the liberals. My body, my choice. Well, that also applies to any issue that you currently don't agree with. So you got to take your principle
That's another
and
argument.
follow it down the track.
That's another argument. So that's the next poor argument that I see. And it's not that it's a poor argument. It's just I see it inconsistent. So if you're going to make the my body my choice thing, you should be consistent on the issue. It should be with all issues, even like with the whole COVID thing. Yeah, the argument against that is, well, you might get somebody else sick, so it's somebody else's body. But then the pro-lifers could say, well, with your abortion, it's not just your body, it's the baby's body. So there you go. You're not being consistent with your beliefs. And I know I'm not picking on anybody. I know that a lot of people have made this argument, and maybe they just didn't think that through. I'm not passing judgment on anybody making these arguments. I'm just saying that they're really not sound arguments. They work really good, but if you can get a million people to post, the same thing, it could help you win or whatever. But it's not. It could help you win public opinion, but it's not actually a good argument. And that's this is all my complaint about how I'm annoyed by what I'm seeing with these arguments. So my body, my choice, to me, is a terrible argument unless you're consistent with it. I want to go on to the next argument with the whole next thing that I see was we should, and I know that this is kind of half in jest, but the whole all men should have a vasectomy, especially or until they can financially prove that they can support a child and such, right? And I see this as kind of like a tit for I just want to get back at men and make them feel like how we feel about the issue. If we just did that, then they would feel what we are feeling. I get that that's part of the argument, but I think it's still a bad argument, because if you think about it, we're talking about a mandatory procedure for 100% of all men over a voluntary procedure between a minority of women.
Well, and not only that, dude, but that's such a stupid argument, because you know how many fucking guys I know that were literally losers and then they had a kid and now they're fucking dope ass human beings.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that.
Having a kid literally is the reason they got their shit together, because their world, literally, I've had them say this to me. Suddenly, it wasn't about me anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I started taking care of my body, because I suddenly had a reason to live, because I didn't want my kid to go fatherless. So I quit smoking, I quit drinking, I quit doing drugs, I quit all that shit. I kept jobs. I started getting promotions. I put myself back in school.
Right.
And now I'm making.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that argument. That's true.
For real.
That's the truth. So to me, the whole trying to reverse it and say that all men should be, to me, it's not even apples to apples. But they might say, well, we're still control. You'll understand that it's control over a man's body or versus a woman's body and whatever. I get that argument. I just think it's a terrible argument. And
where they did legitimately make that argument was in Alabama. They wanted to pass a law.
Anti-masturbation, was that the one?
No, it was they were literally gonna chemically castrate sex offenders because they didn't want to house them anymore. So they were like, no, we're going to chemically castrate them and put them back out on the streets. I'm like, dude, that is the most unethical thing I've ever heard any American government come up with in the modern world. Like, dude, chemical castration, in case the listeners or viewers don't know what chemical castration is, look at Alan Turing, basically the guy who single-handedly won World War II because he invented the thing that decoded the Enigma machine, which allowed the Allies to win World War II, was discovered to be gay. And the British government chemically castrated him, and within a handful of years, he killed himself. Because the argument is, no, it's chemical castration, so it's easily reversible down the road. Well, he's a pedophile. Why would you ever reverse it?
Well, and the thing
it's not about sexual gratification for pedophiles.
Sometimes
it's about power.
Sometimes it is. There's a sexual component, obviously, right?
It's an unethical argument, and anybody that's down for chemical castration, forced chemical castration, is an asshole.
And it's not going to stop future sexual molestations.
No, because most of it's about power anyway. So it's just a short-sighted thing where the state doesn't want to have the burden of housing people anymore. You guys are fucking stupid. And then how are you going to force that again? It's actually probably going to cost me more to hire all these people to go monitor these guys and make sure they're still taking their medication to keep them chemically castrated. It's probably cheaper to just keep them in jail, you fucking idiots. Oh, that shit pisses me off, dude. It's such a short-sighted argument. But I think we've beat this abortion horse to death. So make your last.
Well, there's a couple more arguments, but we just get on tangents, so I forget where we're going.
Fine. But make the last couple arguments. I don't have much more to add to it, though. Is what I'm really getting at. I feel like I've beat it. People clearly understand how I stand on the issue.
One of the arguments that I've seen, like the extreme people say, is like that I didn't give consent. I'm being forced to be a host for a parasite. That argument, you've seen the extreme like feminist idea with that whole.
Yeah, if you were raped, you should be able to have an abortion. Even most Republicans agree with that. That's
not the argument. I'm saying the argument is that the baby is a parasite. There are people that argue this stuff. It's literally a parasite. That's what they'll call it. And they'll say, and then a woman should be able to revoke the consent after the fact anyway. Like I can just say that I want. But here's the thing: is like when you consent to an action, you're consenting to the consequences of those actions, and that just happens to be a human.
A baby does literally meet the definition of a parasite.
Correct, but it's a dishonest argument. It's a dishonest argument.
It's disingenuous. It's not dishonest.
It's dishonest in the fact that what you're disingenuous. Yeah, it's like you're trying to.
Because I think literally, as I'm thinking of what a parasite is, I think actually, if you think about it purely by the definition, a baby actually is a fucking parasite.
A baby is also a bunch of cells too.
That's not disingenuous. That's not an argument. I'm sorry, that's not dishonest to say that. It's disingenuous to use that as your argument,
which is dishonest. Like disingenuous is dishonest.
You think so?
But, yeah,
I feel like disingenuous is more misinformation. Disingenuous is misinformation, whereas dishonesty is disinformation. You're straight up doing something.
I don't know if
deceptive.
It's that cut and dry. I think when you're disingenuous, that there's intent, and that's what makes it dishonest. But
you might be right.
You're probably right. That's all that stuff that doesn't matter. That's just, to me, that was just a stupid argument that I've seen.
Fair enough.
You did consent. You had sex. If you did any other kind of action, you're subject to the consequences of the action. And now again, I know people just tuning in might think that that's, I have a stance on that.
Oh my God, Trump supporters.
Yeah, exactly. But that's not the case. The whole, it's not a baby until it's born argument is another one I absolutely hate. That's an argument that I hate because you know what?
Then why do preemies live?
Even some of the, well, it's born then. Because it was taken out, now it's born, so now it's a baby. So some of these people make that argument, like, oh, no, it's not a baby, it's a fetus, or it's an infant, or whatever. They have try to make it scientific, but the funny thing is, it's the nomenclature to call it a baby. When a mother goes to get an ultrasound, she's not saying, oh, my cluster of cells, I got to see my cluster of cells on the, on the ultrasound.
So when does a woman become a mother? Is she not a mother until the baby's born?
I didn't think about that either, but we.
Sorry, I don't want to keep derailing
to me,
you, but you're making me really think about this.
When you make those arguments that it's not a baby yet, but all those people who make arguments who are pregnant and want to have a baby are going to refer to that as their baby the whole pregnancy, right? So it's like almost like selectively using it to win an argument, and that's dishonest. Like, I'm just trying to be really ultra scientific. It's not a human because it's not born yet. But that kind of technicality thing to me is also disingenuous. It's a dishonest because we have laws for you injure a woman and you kill her baby, unborn child. There could be a murder charge on that, a homicide charge on that. So we do have a set of laws already that kind of already set a precedent that is a life.
And that's what I was saying earlier. Absolutely no one says if you have a baby and then the next day you throw it in a dumpster, literally, like that meme, absolutely no one, blank, crazy bitch, throws baby in a dumpster and thinks it's okay. Like, no one thinks that way except a crazy woman.
Right.
Period.
And these are
or a douchebag father who never wanted the kid anyways.
Yeah.
You've heard stories like we've all heard.
And
so I shouldn't say crazy women. That's disingenuous for me to say only a crazy woman thinks like that.
well,
I
think
just
you
became
kind
the
of have to be
hypocrite.
crazy to do something like that.
But not just women can make those decisions.
But you can have moments of
Men have
craziness
done that
too,
shit
like
too.
moments of insanity that you're not necessarily crazy, but you had a crazy moment or whatever. I get that too, but I know I'm gonna kick myself in the ass for not
The
bringing
last
up
argument.
Some of these are gold.
Well, just hit them, dude. Just hit
No.
them, especially if they're gold. Because I'd rather truly resolve this. Because the very first podcast we did upstairs, when it was audio only way back in the day,
Yeah.
I had a great time hanging out with you, getting drunk and shit. And I was like, man, that was super fun. You were like, yeah, we didn't resolve anything.
Yeah.
I've never forgotten that. Here
No,
we are
I think
4 years later, and I still remember that.
because we would get on tangents and it just goes all over the place.
And the same thing I said at the end, I go, none of this will ever be resolved. We'll be making these same exact arguments 5 years from now. And sure as shit, here we are doing exactly what I said 4 or 5 years from now, still having the same debates.
Yep.
But I think both of us have become more calm, less emotional, and more thoughtful when it comes to these debates. Because you and I got into it a couple
times. The more
times
you
online.
exercise debating and doing that, the more it's like exercise. I mean, you're just getting into the habit of being that person. You're forming who you are. I know that I've changed somewhat since I've started to try to be more objective in thought. And I try to do a thought experiments. Is what I believe sound?
Right.
Can I break it down to its moral components?
I do the same thing.
forth?
I reverse it. What if I was in that situation?
Mm-hmm.
So like, what if I felt like X, Y, and Z was happening to me and my people? I'd be like, well, I wouldn't be cool with that. Okay, well, then I shouldn't be cool with it if there's a perception of somebody else feeling that way. We got to figure out how to get rid of this problem. That's called empathy or sympathy, really. Actually, it's sympathy. Because you're actually taking action on empathy.
Yeah, we could talk about something else. If it comes back to it, it comes back to it. I don't really care. But
if you got any more gold points, hit them.
I can't. We get off track, and then I get off track. So
well, if they come back to you and you remember, just feel free to bring them up.
There's no rules.
They'll probably be analogous to something else we end up talking about. Because at the end of the day, if we're not careful about this, we'll just keep going in circles and talking about the same thing over and over again, and then it becomes extremely boring to other people.
To sum it up, I just want people to have better arguments for this, and that's just my personal thing. And I think it's good for people in general to have better sound arguments.
And I'll give the prescription for that. Be more thoughtful.
Yep.
Be more genuine.
Yep.
There's probably a third one I could give in there, but that would be my two things: is be more genuine and be more thoughtful. Like really, actually think about these things deeply. Oh,
right.
And be more objective. Like literally try to take your emotions out of it and just think about how this can affect everyone. And that can apply to literally both sides. However, I'm going to admit it. I completely 100% side with the pro-choicers.
Mm-hmm.
I'm urging my fellow pro-choicers to come up with a timeline that the pro-lifers can agree with, because we do need to resolve this issue, because this is not something that's healthy for us as a society to keep fighting about going forward. We got bigger issues. We got bigger fish to fry.
Because that timeline keeps getting pushed farther and farther and farther, almost in spite. Like, I
don't like it.
I don't think a majority of people believe that you should be able to abort something at 8 months.
No, clearly, based on these stats we just fact-checked in the chat, it's literally 50-50. About 43% of women, and about 45%.
And that's our general understanding of abortion as it is now versus what they want to make it even more extreme, right? Mm-hmm. And so you make it even more open. That number is going to change big time, because if people had to make a choice, gun to my head, if I had to make a choice being pro-choice or pro-life, if all of a sudden you're killing 9-month-old babies, which I'm not saying is going to happen, but they've made the law. Some states like Colorado or whatever have a law that says up to 9 months, and that's a problem, right? Yeah. So I can understand why that might switch some of the people that are okay with some compromise might say, well, I have to pick a side.
Literally, I swear to God, that's like where I go, whoa, that's too far. So I literally have said this.
Right. I
don't really feel comfortable having opinion. Like, the women need to decide. But then if they decided it's 51 weeks. No, she said 40 weeks, right? Yeah, 40 weeks. So what if they decided 39? I'd go, that seems a bit extreme. Like immediately, my reaction, I'd go, really? That's the number?
That's
like,
not. It's not a compromise.
Way too late.
Right? Yeah.
That seems way too late. Like,
and I understand the not wanting to compromise because I don't want to compromise on my rights either.
And let me
right?
just give myself an out here because anybody's going to try to flame me for this. I also think 6 weeks is too soon. 12 weeks is too soon. 15 weeks is too soon because I know a lot of women that don't even know they're pregnant until 12 weeks. Because missing a period is not a guaranteed sign of being pregnant. I've literally been with girls who've missed a period. And she's like, I might be pregnant, just to give you a heads up. And I'm like, okay, I want a baby. Let's figure this out.
No,
and then all of a sudden she gets
single. No.
and then she gets her period the next time.
Yeah.
And it's like, is what probably happened is she was trying to make a baby there. Like, that's probably why she missed that period. Like, honestly, this is probably what's going on naturally, and we don't know. Because you miss one period, very few women go immediately and get a pregnancy test or immediately go to the doctor. You know what I mean? Usually most women wait until they miss a second one. Well, you're already at 8 weeks. Then they go, oh, fuck. In fact, my mom, when she had my little brother, I was like 16 when she got pregnant. And I remember my mom, like, not only missing more than one period, but I remember, because my bedroom was attached to the kitchen. It was a weird old house from 1908 in Minneapolis, so the layout's really strange. And my mom was in the kitchen having a conversation with her mom and her sister. I wasn't supposed to hear this, but I did hear it because of the proximity. They didn't realize I was awake. They had just gotten back from breakfast. They think the 16-year-old teenager in the middle of the summer on vacation, summer vacation, he's going to be sleeping till noon. I wasn't. I was up at 8:30 for some dumbass reason. I probably had to work. And I literally opened the door and I go, you're pregnant. And she goes, no, I'm not. That's not funny. And I go, Mom, you said you haven't had 2 periods and your boobs are bigger and they hurt. You're fucking pregnant. And my grandma goes, watch your mouth. And I go, it's not my fault she can't admit she's fucking pregnant because I just woken up. Like, I was awake, but I heard all of this. Sure as shit, my mom was pregnant. My mom didn't think it was possible because she had some issues after I was born. So she wasn't supposed to be able to have kids. Like, she was told by doctors, you're not able to have children anymore. Don't worry about it. So if my mom, who would have literally been an older mom, she's like, I cannot be a mother again. Like, this isn't, I did my deal, blah, 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 blah. I just want to know, when would it have been ethical and moral and okay for my mom to have that abortion? Because according to the Republicans,
let's say pro-choice, pro-life. Yeah.
Sorry, you're right. You're right. We already established that. I'm fucking up. The pro-lifers would say by a lot of these states' deals, 12 weeks, 16 weeks. My mom has already passed the deadline. Nope, sorry, lady. You're having that kid whether you like it or not. And the biggest issue I have is that you don't want to let a woman have an abortion, but you're also against the state making sure that orphans don't be completely neglected. Like, you don't want to have welfare. You don't want, most of the pro-lifers are Republicans, and that's why I have a problem with this, is they go
That's another poor argument, though.
But they are like this. Like, they don't want to pay for welfare. They don't want to pay for Section 8. They don't want to pay for health care and dental care. But here's the thing, man. I understand those parents might be poor, and they might be irresponsible. Mm-hmm. Okay, but that kid didn't have a choice. That kid was born, and that kid doesn't need or deserve to grow up with fucked up dental care or no health care. Like, no, because if we take care of that kid and we educate that kid could grow up to be the next Mark Zuckerberg or the next Dave Chappelle or you see what I'm getting at? The next Elon Musk or the next Moshe Kasher.
This is the difference between...
Joe Rogan grew up on welfare. Moshe Kasher grew up on welfare. These are guys that are definitely contributing to the economy more than they took. And how many of, again, now we're weighing human life.
But this
because
is
how
anecdotal.
Many Joe Rogans need to be success stories from welfare versus how many failures? This is where I don't like this shit, because now we're weighing human life.
I don't see it, and that's the thing is to me that's another one of the bad arguments that I think that isn't sound. Well, people are the pro.
What are you saying? I make bad arguments?
No, let me explain.
I'm kidding.
So a misrepresentation of what somebody believes obviously is a fallacy, right? But saying and trying to compare something and trying to point out hypocrisy that's not really there. So the argument isn't that pro-lifers don't want, we don't believe in welfare, we don't believe in I have to pay for it, blah blah blah. They're still believing in the same exact thing, personal accountability, right? Take aside
which I am a proponent of,
right? So they're saying I don't want to pay for welfare because these people should be responsible for themselves. But that doesn't mean that they don't care about other people. That has nothing to do with it. They just believe that, hey, you shouldn't force me to pay for somebody else's 8 children's by 10 or 8 children by like 6 different daddies. Like, you can't force me to pay for that. You shouldn't.
Right.
That doesn't mean that they're not still pro-life, because it's still a whole thing is you got pregnant, you deal with it. That's their perception. No, I'm still good. That's still their perception. So it's not a hypocrisy. You're not catching a pro-life person in some kind of gotcha moment. It's not hypocrisy. It's still the same thing. It's accountability. It's still like, this is not my responsibility. This is your responsibility. You take care of your kids. I don't take care of your kids. You take care. It's the same rationale. But the other people will try to demonize the other person and say, you really aren't pro-life because you don't believe in welfare. That's not a true comparison.
So this is a great segue to get off of this specific topic, but still stay on our philosophical arguments, right? Yep. Here's the other issue I have with the pro-lifers / predominantly conservatives / Republicans. Yep. They're pro-life until it comes to the death penalty, baby. Now suddenly you don't give a fuck about human life. You're willing to fuck it. And it doesn't line up with your fiscally conservative point of view either as a Republican, because statistically it is proven, factual, with math. I believe in math more than I believe in science, because science
evolves. I get to fight this one too.
Science evolves, and changes. So 1 year mayonnaise is more healthy than fucking
eggs are bad for you. Eggs are good for you. That's
right. That's what I mean.
For every 10 days, it's the
math
opposite.
is not. Math is never fallible. Math is always math. So it's mathematically proven. It is significantly cheaper to keep somebody in prison for life than it is to go through the death penalty, because the way our country is set up to protect the civil rights and the amount,
you have all the trials and all that,
and the amount of false
appeals,
convictions. There's no value in the death penalty, because you can never truly 100% prove, even with a confession,
I agree,
that they actually did the crime. And number 2, it's not cheaper to do it. So these pro-lifers / Republicans / conservatives, meaning states like Texas and Florida, the idea of the death penalty is the ultimate hypocrisy for these same people who are turning around and demanding that you have that same baby. Because we also know a lot of these babies that are born in poverty to abusive parents turn into criminals. And if they have a fucking bad dad who's a rapist and a pedophile and he diddles that kid, that's what makes more rapists and pedophiles. It's not hereditary, but it's
it's environment. Whatever.
I get what you're saying. You know what I'm trying to say. Hopefully the listeners are keeping up with my logic as well, because this to me is the ultimate version of pro-life / Republican / conservative hypocrisy. And this is where I'm not down with it, because it also doesn't align with small government.
Here's the thing:
get the fuck out of the way.
I don't necessarily see it as hypocrisy, because again, I'm trying to give the benefit of the doubt to the person making the argument. I'm going to look at their argument, and then I'm going to say, are they really being hypocritical? Doesn't make sense. Whatever, right? To say I don't believe in the death penalty, but I believe, like in a situation where somebody's coming at me, they're going to kill me, and I kill them. You can't say because I killed someone that I'm not pro-life, right?
That's self-defense. It's a completely different argument. It's not even. That's not even apples to oranges.
I'm bringing you down a path. I'm bringing you down a path, though.
Fair, but for the listeners, that's not even apples to oranges, let alone apples to apples. That's apples to green peppers. You see what I'm saying? Like, that's self-defense versus pro-life, death penalty, any of this. They're not even remotely in the same arena.
But to me, it's not necessarily that killing someone doesn't make you pro-life. You go to war, you kill someone. That might not be self-defense. You're being put in a situation, though, where you need to go attack this village. It doesn't mean you're not pro-life, right? Because most of the time in war, it's not an equal battle. It's not an equal battle, right?
No, but is what we're doing to keep the conversation consistent is what we are doing in those situations, whether you're the soldier or you're the general, is you are absolutely 100% weighing and measuring human life. Is this worth it? And we literally have a term for that called collateral damage. How many innocent people are we okay with killing in order to kill the real enemy? This is not something that is only here today because of drone bombings. This is something that was literally invented before modern day weaponry. This is why the ancient not ancient. Oh my God, I'm such a dick. This is why, like, not ancients, but actually, no, it was. This is literally why they used to meet with huge armies in fields, because they were like, we're going to leave the civilians out of this. There was like mutual rules of combat because they were also philosophically weighing human life. Let's not fight in the streets where all the people are, because there was a time where that was okay. And then everybody agreed, hey man, sacking cities is kind of fucking like the crudest way to do this. Let's be a little bit more civil. So here's the deal. We'll take all our best soldiers and all your best soldiers, and whichever army is left standing, you get the city. Cool? Got it. And we literally did this all the way up until modern times, and it's called collateral damage. So all we ever do in those scenarios is weighing human life. That's what's not willing to happen in the arguments we're currently talking about in modern day society with abortion and things like that, is we're not willing to do that.
Okay, we'll get back to the death penalty thing. The libertarian, even like libertarians don't believe in like death penalty and stuff like that. This might be one of the things that, and it's not saying that I believe in the death penalty, but that's one of the things I'm conflicted about too, because I think some motherfuckers deserve to die, to be honest with you.
Me too. But you and I respect the idea that our feelings shouldn't be enacted in political policy,
right?
Including when it comes to somebody dying.
But I also don't think my money should be spent keeping those motherfuckers alive either.
Because if you raped my wife, right? Part of me says, you know what, government, don't worry about this.
Yeah.
You know what his punishment's going to be? Lock me in a room with him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and we don't want to. Yeah,
they used to do this shit. Like that's what the movie The Last Duel was about with Matt Damon. It was like, you raped my wife. Oh, nobody can prove that. Okay, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna fight, me and you. Okay. I understand how barbaric that is. That's why you can't let me anywhere.
This is why we have
my wife's rapist.
Civilized rules.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. That's why you.
Still not my point.
The government can't let me anywhere near my wife's rapist, because if I'm allowed to, I'm going to violate that man's rights. But I respect this. I'm able to go, hey, wait a minute. In this situation, I'm too emotional, and I know what the real world rules are. So, yeah, y'all got to fucking handle this. Because if I get...
I'm losing my track of that.
Okay, so get back to it.
But I don't...
Because we're talking about the death penalty.
Death penalty, yeah. Like, I understand...
Like, don't leave it up to me.
I understand their side of the situation, so I'm not saying that... I don't believe that it's completely hypocrisy, because honestly, like, one of the things that we do is we afford criminals rights still, right?
Well, right, because it's almost like a Christian, like, Jesus philosophy, right? Like, regardless of whether you're a whore or not... You still have the right to a fair trial. You still have a right to... You're still a human, man.
Yep, right. But what's weird about that is you're now being locked in a cage. So
to protect society.
You're getting some of your rights already restricted. So to me, like, I have a problem with like housing criminals. I honestly,
certain criminals.
Yeah, I think that, well, depends on what it is, right?
Because the reason we do that is because motherfuckers have escaped and done even more collateral damage because we didn't house them while awaiting trial. You see what I'm saying? So, like, this is another thing I want the libertarians to think more about, okay? Even though I agree with y'all on a lot of shit. Like, that seems unethical, blah, blah, blah. The reason that law is there is because enough people fucked up before we ever got here. And that's why I think a lot of the libertarians, including yourself at times, no offense, are a bit delusional. Because it's like, dude, we already went through that. We already did the Wild West thing. Like, we're never going back to that. But even though
the Wild West wasn't as exactly as the Wild West as we think it was.
It was violent. It was horrible.
It was nowhere near how people depicted it as.
It was definitely
definitely was not.
It was exactly like all the movies, and there's zero exaggeration. I don't know what you're possibly talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
You goddamn bigot.
Yeah. So to me, I don't see it as the same issue, because you're talking about, well, I don't believe kids should be in cages, but I think criminals are. So we're making exceptions for somebody who's innocent, who we see as innocent, versus somebody who is a fucking legitimate threat to society. Mm-hmm. Somebody who has proven that they are. Now, don't get me wrong. There have been innocent people that died in death row. And even when information came out because of political reasons, they don't want to let the person out. That to me is wrong, and that's why I think most libertarians don't support government death penalties.
That kids in cages thing is super fucked up. That's the best example of like, how the fuck do we even solve this problem? Because the reason kids ended up in cages in the first place was because you can't house children with adults in prison. So when they're being held, it's just, and that makes sense, right? Well, yeah, you don't want fucking weirdos in a locked cage with a child.
Well, and then they'll say, well, it's their parents, but
we already know. And here's the point: the reason that is because there was enough bad shit that happened to kids where we're like, we cannot do that. So we got to keep the kids separate from the adults. Well, now we're keeping away from their potential parents.
Yeah.
But what if you're in a fucking... So I take your mom and I take you and I put you in a cage. And in that cage, there's another mom and another kid. But that's not actually her kid. And she's a fucking crazy bitch. And she kills all three of you.
Yeah,
you see what I'm saying? So you can't do that.
To be honest with you, it's a logistics problem, right?
Right. That's exactly
how do you
my
house
point.
These many people together and still have? I mean, we see what happens with, and I'm not saying people that cross the border are the same thing as the violent criminals that might be in a penitentiary, even though most of them are even in jail for non-violent offenses, or even no victim, drugs, for instance, right? Mm-hmm. But it's a logistics problem. Where do you put people? Where do you put all these people? You can't. There's not enough hotel rooms for everybody. There's not enough spare houses for everybody. There's not enough. Like, what do you do? And I'm not. Again, this is not me arguing for putting them in cages. It's literally a logistics argument.
Yeah.
What is the solution?
So what we're really getting at is like, this is the problem. Is again, even this argument is not usually made from a good faith perspective, because is what we're saying is no. We're not saying we should keep the kids in the cages. Is what we're asking you guys who are opposed to this is, how do we handle this then? And they never have an answer.
Well, I think the cages
they just bitch about what's currently happening. And it's like, let's start talking about solutions. What do we do with the kids at the border then?
Right. The cages has like a symbolic meaning, though. Like when somebody sees somebody in a cage, there's a other connotation to, because they're in a cage.
Yeah.
But
every time I see
but had they be walls, how is that different?
Anytime I see,
logically, how is it different?
For me, anytime I see any of those photos, my heart sinks.
Mm-hmm.
And I just can't be down with it. But if I take my emotions out of it and I go back to when I was taking economics classes before I dropped out of school, this actually came up in economics. We legally let 1 million people into the country per year. And the reason it's 1 million is because economists who are way smarter than me,
I think they changed that number
mathematically. Mm-hmm. The economists currently debate about upping it to 2 million. Yeah. And they might have already upped it to 2 million.
They've constantly kind of, I think,
exactly.
Unless there's extreme circumstances where they've doled it back.
It's basically built on a percentage and an algorithm of what's our current population and what's an influx of new people
that isn't going to fuck up everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you can't just let everybody in. Mm-hmm. Like, economically, it would devastate us to the point where it's literally unfathomable. It would be 10 times greater than the Great Depression. And this is stuff that I remember learning in college. So, like, that's why we control immigration. And then what made America's economy great in the first place is the way we do immigration is we incentivize and want... In our Constitution, not our Constitution, but in our immigration policy, the way it's written is we incentivize and give free schooling to extremely brilliant people here, and we allow them to come here and get free education if they're smart enough. And there's literally a number and a code for what I'm talking about. And we have no problem with them going back to their own country and taking that knowledge with them, because the way we figured this out, again, almost mathematically, and I believe in math more than anything else, really, is what they contribute while learning here ends up being greater than what they take with them to their own country. Our society becomes better by allowing the smartest and the best and the brightest immigrants here. But we also allow you're tired, you're wretched, and you're poor. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And those things are done based on referrals and sponsors. So we want to make sure, if this person comes to the country, can you house them for, again, mathematically what we know to take 7 to 15 years for this person to actually make it in a new country? Are you willing to take on that burden? And you go, yep. And then if they fill out the paperwork, they're allowed to come here without being a citizen and earn their citizenship while they're here. I know a grip of these people. I've worked with them. I've managed them. I've become neighbors and friends with these people. These are real, honest immigrants, and they feel the most insulted. It's not your right wing.
Right. Yep.
They took our jobs. It's the actual legal immigrants that feel insulted by illegal immigration. That's what blows my mind. And no one is talking about that.
Yeah,
the right or the left. No one's talking about that. Period. And that fucks me up about the immigration thing. That really bothers me, dude. Because we do a lot on both sides of that deal. And there's a lot of motherfuckers that work really hard. And they barely make it. But they fucking... It's because they believe in the American dream. And they're struggling. And they're doing it all the right way.
And to be honest with you, like, I believe that
I sound like a fucking insane person.
I believe I believe that a lot of the reasons people are tempted... I think a lot of the people who are against immigration don't know why they're really against immigration. Because obviously, yeah, we're going to get an influx of people from all these other countries that want to come to America because it's prosperous and better than where they're from in their minds, right? Of course, this can be metrically proven in some things, but still, yeah.
But you're talking perception.
They still have a goal. They think they're going to better themselves.
Sure you don't want a cigar, dude?
No, I'm good.
I'll give you a cheap one.
No, I'm good. See, I got it tracking. Okay, so most of the problem is our foreign policy creates some of this issue too. So, like, for instance, like drug cartels. What are we doing with those in Mexico? We're supposed to be fighting them, right?
Well, what I heard is Trump had two plans. What I heard is Trump had two literal plans. He wanted to declare them terrorists and carpet bomb the entire fucking jungle, and his B plan, which because his A plan didn't work, that his first plan was let's bomb the shit out of him, which I still think is fucking hilarious because you really wanted to do that. He's like, let's send the whole fucking deal after him, and people in the cabinet were like, no. So his second plan was, can we legalize drugs? And this is not made up. You guys can fact check me if you want. I think the credit's actually technically after the fact going to the Mexican government, that they approached us about it, but that is not the way it was initially reported, and it wasn't from Republican sources, it was from liberal sources, that the Trump administration is legitimately considering and consulting with the Mexican government right now about ending the war on drugs and legalizing federally drugs and partnering with Mexico to figure out the best way to demilitarize the cartels. Those were almost the exact. I'm paraphrasing, but that's as close as I can get.
I get what you're saying, but my issue is like,
so that motherfucker was nuts,
but people don't understand why there's this immigration flux. Their country has become more dangerous.
I think I might have a joke here. So basically, what Trump's attitude was: bomb them. Oh wait, no. Can we make money?
Yeah.
We can't kill them all. Okay. Can we make money? Like that's basically where Trump's mind. But
to be honest with you, those are like the two choices: either perpetuate the same bullshit and kill the person that we're receiving a problem, or we end what's causing the problem. If in a libertarian society with the drug, there would be no drug prohibition, and therefore there would be less people coming into the country, right?
Well, and if you think about it, that's kind of how they ended the original prohibition on alcohol. It's like probably somebody in the federal government, again, probably had a similar drunken conversation. Neither one of us are drunk, but smoking cigars in the White House, having some fucking whiskey, and they go, well, can we just kill all the bootleggers? And somebody went, no. And then somebody
Except they poisoned a whole bunch of
fair, but they didn't kill them all, right?
10,000 people died.
Right? But it still didn't kill them all, right? So maybe they were like, okay, well, we tried to kill them all. Fuck, that didn't work. Can we make money off these guys? Yeah, let's just legalize it and tax the shit out of them. And everyone went, fuck it, man, let's get rich.
But that's a fact, too. You can check that, too, that the U.S. government did poison illegal alcohol shipments, which led to people fucking dying.
I do remember this.
Because they wanted to scare people from, still partaking in alcohol. But yeah, that's, like some of the problems that people have with immigration, they don't understand why we have a problem with the immigration and why we're getting some of these problems. Mexico,
honestly, I don't think
our prohibition is fucking up Mexico pretty good.
Honestly, here's the deal. I don't think we actually have an immigration problem. I really don't. I think how we handle immigrants is a problem. But the amount of illegal immigrants coming across the border, I don't think it's an actual problem. I think we handle the issue.
I think it's a problem only in sheer numbers. That's the, like you said, you have to do it smart. That's why we got to limit something.
And I think we have the whole thing figured out. How we're handling it, where we have ethical and moral problems, how we're treating our fellow human beings, regardless of whether American citizens or not. I know a lot of fucking right-wingers and Republicans and libertarians that believe the Constitution extends beyond America's borders.
I think human rights are human rights.
And the Constitution protects human rights. And it doesn't matter if you're an American. That's why if you're a foreign citizen and you commit a crime in America and you're put on an American trial, you still get all of the constitutional rights. We do not do that unless you're deemed a terrorist.
Yeah, so if you're a French find guy, ways around this. No.
Yeah. If you're a French guy, you're living in Minneapolis, but you're not a full citizen. If you're a French guy on vacation in Minneapolis and you kill a girl or are accused of killing a girl, and we put you on trial here in Minneapolis, you're getting all of the American rights, every single one, because there is nothing in the Constitution that says the Constitution only applies to American citizens. I don't know where people ever got that. Well, he's not an American; he doesn't have rights. I used to say
there
that.
Are people that say that.
But I don't know where I ever got that from, because literally that's not written or talked about anywhere. Is what it actually says is no government can give you or take away any rights, because the way they phrase it is you were born with these rights and they were given to you by God. Therefore, no government can take them away because a government never gave you these rights. God gave you these rights.
We actually are giving government their power. Right. In theory, that's the process. We are granting the government limited responsibilities over us, and we voluntarily do this.
And the Constitution is limiting the government's empowerment, so the government doesn't have the ability to infringe on these rights. That's why they're literally cannot infringe, inalienable. That's why they use those words, right? So we give those rights to immigrants. Like, I think the problem is, and I agree with this, is there's parts of the Constitution we're violating while housing immigrants. The cages. It does seem like it's cruel and it's unusual. Sorry, that's a constitutionally protected right. It's the same argument I brought up against chemically castrating pedophiles when I was arguing with people about that. I said, it's in the Constitution. That's cruel and unusual. Period. It's right there. You're not doing it. And I will this is shit like I'm obviously not going to do, but this is shit you go to war over. Like, no, we're not going back to fucking medieval times where we're hanging people, brother. We're not doing public executions because it feels right. We're not chemically castrating people. We're not violating the rights of a French or an Arab dude who are just here. They still have rights. That's why I don't agree with any of the shit in the Patriot Act, because they say, oh, well, he's a terrorist. So we put him in Cuba and they're not in America, so we don't have to give them constitutional. Fuck you. Yes, you absolutely have to. Because again, America doesn't grant rights to people. Our creator, whether what I don't give a fuck what you believe, universe, natural order, chaos, whatever, you were born with these rights.
Inherent
and the government is limited. The American government is limited in their ability to violate those rights. So I don't give a fuck if it's an Arab dude who you accuse of terrorism and you put him in Cuba. He still has every fucking right we do. So again, It's like it sounds like we're right wingers when we make most of these arguments, but we're not, because this exact same philosophy.
The reason why I loosely said
Republican.
Immigration problem, because that's what the general
that's what
nomenclature
my point was.
is, right?
All of this is that's what my real point was. All of this has been politicized.
Right.
We don't have an immigration problem. We have an ethics problem on how we're housing immigrants.
So to me, it's like, okay.
I hope you
from
guys
a libertarian perspective, I don't think that I should have to pay for another person. So welcome to the country. I'm not paying your bills though. That's my mindset, right? So that's one thing that's an issue.
What if it's somebody?
I don't give a shit if it's
that's 175 IQ. It's basically Nikola Tesla.
I don't give a shit.
Okay. So they could come here and have all their inventions made, invented, and patented here. Or they could go to Canada.
This is the greater good argument.
They could go to France.
Those.
No, it's not even just the greater good.
Is.
It's the selfish individual good of our country and our economy and our society. So do you want
still a greater good argument?
Do you want Albert Einstein here? Or do you want him in Canada? Do you want him here, or do you want him in France? Do you want him here, or do you want him in Japan? Like, where do you want these geniuses of the world? I want them here because they're artistic, scientific, and all of their achievements.
So you're willing to tax other people to have them here. That's why I'm saying, as a libertarian perspective, that I don't give a fuck. It's not that I don't care about those people. It's not that I won't give them that certain person money myself. You know, it's not that I wouldn't voluntarily do it. I just don't. I think when you
do, and I'll tell you
when
why.
you have an open checkbook saying, "Oh, just keep coming, we'll just keep paying. Keep coming, we'll keep paying it every time."
I absolutely do, and I'll tell you why. Because I believe that once most of these immigrants, like we're talking about, which is honestly all immigrants, but we're using the elite immigrants of our time, including people like fucking Elon Musk. We're using like the elite ones because the examples become more obvious when you accelerate them, when you exaggerate them, and become way more easy to understand these concepts. So my point is, most of these guys don't leave. And when that immigrant status runs out, the taxes and the economic contributions that they make vastly outnumber what they ever took mathematically. So yes, it's an investment. It's not a cost. It's an investment. And because
it's an investment to me?
Yes, because
I reap the rewards of theft from other people, it's moral.
So literally people like Albert Einstein, okay, come here, help us finish the Manhattan Project, win World War II, which allows us the ability to build the military-industrial complex. So now, here we are in 2022, we used to think Russia was actually a military power. But now we realize, no. The reason we've been doing this deal the whole time is for exactly these scenarios now. Because right now, all of these brilliant people who've come to America, we've taken that proprietary knowledge and we've put it into our tech, we've put it into our military, and no one can fuck with us on a military stage. We used to think Russia actually was a threat.
But see, you are making a greater good argument, but you're also saying the means justify the ends too. But here's the thing: is you said, we did this, and now we got a greater military-industrial complex. I don't look at the military-industrial complex as being a purely good thing
until you see Russia invading country sovereignty. And if it wasn't for us, literally, because we are NATO. Like, NATO's NATO, but it's really us.
So, we don't...
And if it wasn't for us having this ability, more innocent people across the world would be dying. And they would build that snowball confidence to where
in specific
it could dramatically negatively affect our economy, where Americans are losing jobs and starving to death because of what Russia's doing on the other end of the world. The reason we can stave off countries like them is because of the things that we've made in the past.
Who's staving us off?
Nobody, baby.
But I'm saying you got to understand my position too, where I'm saying, you're pointing out like, we did this, and because we can do this, it justifies whatever. But I'm saying that there's also bad that came with it, and who the fuck am I to decide this team should win and this team should lose, and this is this justifies the whole thing, everything we've done to everybody else along the way.
And we're not really paying out of pocket for immigrants. They just don't have to pay certain taxes for a certain period of time while they're here in the beginning. And if they're super smart,
you know how I feel about taxes, so I don't care about that.
And if they're super smart, they're going to private colleges, so we don't feel that tax burden at all either. And the amount that they contribute by helping mostly Americans have their businesses move forward, and the sales and the economic, again, it's a greater positive than it is a negative. So it's not just a greater good. I'm telling you, it's a mathematical fact that immigrants help the economy more than they hurt, as long as we don't have too many of them come in at once.
Right, but we could make the same argument to justify violating people's rights. We could be like, well, we've massively reduced crime, but there's a camera in everybody's fucking house right now. You know what I mean? I don't. That
seems like an extreme analogy.
No, but we were talking about, does the ends justify the means? I don't like those kind of arguments, because if you follow it to its purest form, you're saying this is a taxation thing, and I don't, and it's not even like, oh, we don't pay for that much to these people, whatever. I'm saying that's my point. Like, I don't care how you how somebody says, oh, it's only a little bit. We're only taking a little bit from you. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. That I'm still going off a principle. Like I can't be like, oh, that's okay. You're only taking that much. Okay, then where are my principles? Like, principles, you're supposed to kind of stick by them a little bit. That's why I think, like, if you open the door and you let or let's say you let the camel get his nose under the tent, soon you're going to have the camel in the tent. And that's, to me, is how we've got this military industrial complex and all this stuff. All this thinking is what gets us into these also very dangerous and negative things too. Like the nuclear bomb, like, yeah, we got the nuclear bomb. We're the greatest military power in the world. But what did we do with it? We freaking radiated fucking parts of the earth. We fucking blew up a whole bunch of innocent Japanese people, like 80,000 or something like that. I mean, that's crazy.
Well, up until now, we've prevented another world war from breaking out. But it looks like we might be headed towards World War II.
This is Nostradamus thinking. Like, this is like saying that that we've stopped it from happening. We may have delayed it. And it might be a bubble that's It might be a bubble that keeps growing and growing and growing. And
we didn't just develop the nuclear bomb. We also invented nuclear energy.
Right, exactly. I'm saying there's some good that comes with it and some bad that comes with it, but I shouldn't be forced to pay for it. I don't give a fuck if it's mostly good or mostly bad. I don't care. I shouldn't be forced to pay for it because it's a moral argument. Is what I'm saying.
Right, but if everybody had the ability to just be like, I don't want to pay for the military, let me opt out, we probably wouldn't have the military we have right now, and we probably would have been invaded and beaten. Like, we barely won World War II, and we only won World War II.
But here's the thing is, though, do
you see what I'm getting at, though, here?
I see what you're saying. You're still making a good argument.
What I'm saying is a lot of this argument is made from a point of already established victory and privilege. Not like white privilege, stupid bullshit. Like, dude, we got lucky that we won World War II because we beat them in the race to build the bomb.
But we're also in a very strategic place that's hard to invade, too.
True, but economically, we were not very strong. Including post World War II.
Okay,
like we were on the verge of collapse almost the entire time. It's only recently in the last 50 to 70 years that we have become too big to fail. Like, now, if we fail, the world fails.
Yeah, there's a concept. The bubble gets bigger, and the bigger the bubble gets, when it pops, the more problems. Mm-hmm. I think that we're just delay the inevitable at some point in time. I'm not a pro-war guy. But I'm saying that you're never going to stop war. You may stop a war, but because you stop that war, what butterfly effect is that down the line?
But they were only trying to stop one war. Period.
Who?
All the allies who weaponize nuclear weapons. Period. Like literally, the reason we did this.
I don't think it was that pure.
The reason it's the reason we did it at scale. It's not pure, but the reason we did it at scale was, and it's the same
why
reason
we put a rush on it. Yes,
it's the same reason we also eventually started de-escalating it, and it's the same reason we're going back up now, and and I'm sure we'll start fucking deproliferating again.
Yeah,
it's the idea is self-preservation. The idea is
right.
The war that was fought in World War I and World War II was so insane, and the world felt it, that they said, okay, we got to start doing X, Y, and Z. The UN, nuclear weapons for all the allies to make sure that at any given point we can snuff out true evil like that ever again. Seems virtuous, seems like a great idea. And the bad guys get their hands on that weapon. We get in the nuclear arms race, blah, 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 blah. Slow that down. All of a sudden, we go, hey, there's too many nukes. This is getting insane. We all agree we don't want to go to World War III. We evolve into what we call proxy wars. And it's only now, and this is a great transition into the actual shit I wanted to talk to you about, which was Ukraine and Russia, is it's only now when I have said for months now, I believe Putin is dying, and he wants his face to be next to Stalin and fucking Lenin.
Oh, I don't know anything
and
about
Karl Marx. So I believe that's what the motivation is he's trying to restore the Soviet Union to its glory because he knows he's dying, and he literally wants his face hung up like Stalin's is, like fucking Karl Marx is, like fucking
I've
Lenin is.
heard that theory. I don't know where I heard it. It was like on a talk show or something.
It's probably me.
I've heard
I swear to
I've
God,
heard
I was the first
others
person that said
that
it out loud.
No, if you Google it, there's conspiracy theories about that, because I looked into it immediately and I heard it, and I couldn't find anything that was good enough for me to go, oh, that's probably true. It doesn't mean it's not true. It could very well be true, and there's just nobody reporting on it, nobody of real substance reporting on it or whatever, right? So that could possibly be true.
You heard it here first, folks.
I
think Putin's dying, and that's the
I come from a
motivation
standpoint. I understand self-preservation, and I understand like the things you'll do. You'll kill off another tribe if resources are getting too low. You know, like, oh, there's a whole bunch of buffalo. There's not that much buffalo left, and now they're controlling the water source. We need to kill them so we have water. You know, I understand there's immoral things that happen because of self-preservation, but the thing is like I'm not gonna say that I should be forced to fund that. Like, I just can't. You can say whatever good happens. Oh well, you're better off for it. Well, we're better off for a lot of bad shit that happened in society. If you think about it, and that's like the ultimate libertarian argument is like, yes, there's still going to be suffering, but this suffering is justifiably better or lesser than the suffering that currently takes place under X, Y, or Z situation. Well, that's the ultimate libertarian argument. Right? Well, see, the thing is too is like we look at like the injustice that has been done to slaves.
My point, though, just to reiterate, is the true, actual libertarian argument is a greater good argument.
It
really is, because
it's a freedom argument where you're like, it's not saying that like being free is not safe. Being free does not mean you're not going to go to war.
You're talking about liberty is what you're talking about.
Right. But see, that's kind of like that whole... But even most libertarians believe in some government, some limited, very limited government, right? That's kind of what liberty... Otherwise, you're kind of an ANCAP with if you don't believe in government. That, that's like the next step or whatever. Sure. But within the libertarian things, there's a different spectrum of where you sit and how much government is. But my issue is, like, I look at all these things, the bad things that happen in history, and then I see all these people arguing why we need to make corrections now, and we need more government to fix and pay for and make up for all the bad stuff we did in the past while we're still doing new bad stuff. It's like, we have to stop somewhere. Otherwise, this madness, this cycle continues. We're going to create a new group of people that have been victimized that we're going to have to give some kind of, I don't know, more money to pay for more programs, but it's just like an endless cycle of doing this thing. And I just think, like, is it realistic for me to have my beliefs and think it's really going to happen? Probably not. It's not realistic at all. Like, but neither is believing that neither is believing that we can have a better moral society, because I don't think that's possible either. I just think we just shift and we justify why we're doing this, why we need to be in 800 freaking countries or whatever, right? It's like we justify why, but we're still committing, destroying people's sovereignty and whatever, and invading their land, and we're doing all that stuff still, and we're create more fallout from that. Eventually, it's going to come back to kill somebody. It might not kill you. You have our generation has preserved itself, but does that means that my grandchildren pay the price for my shit now? And so, to me, I'm only making a moral argument. So I try to break it down to, is it right or wrong based on morals? Is it right because I'm preserving myself, that I need to kill someone else? It's wrong. So that's why I wouldn't want to do that. I wouldn't want to have to take out someone just so that I have a cheeseburger and they had a cheeseburger and I didn't. I wouldn't. It was the last food on earth. I got to kill that guy so I can eat. I don't want that mindset. So to me, because I think you can literally, it's like a blank check argument. You can write it whenever you want to make it, because you can justify anything. And I think that's part of why our society has gotten to the level that we find every way to rationalize and justify everything. And I just don't think we should have the power to be able to do that.
You know what really cracks me up, though, is like the idea of, and it's kind of based on what you're talking about now in our whole conversation, is the idea that the solvent for all of these issues is because I feel like most people look at the wealth distribution in this country. I feel like if I'm looking at
this camera, is a good segue too.
I feel like I'm looking at. I want to make sure I'm looking at this camera. So this is going to make way more sense if you're looking at the screen. So I hate to do this, but for the listeners, maybe come back and watch the video version of this one on YouTube, because I think most people imagine it like there's two buckets of America in the American economy and the taxation system and the wealth distribution. There's two buckets, right? We know that 1% owns 99% of the wealth, and 99% own 1% of the wealth. So they think there's only two columns here. But what they don't really realize is there's actually a third bucket over here called the bureaucracy of the government that bogs down and takes a huge amount of money. Okay? So what people think for some reason is what they want to do is, if we just make sure that we can tax the rich enough, that sounds so sexy. Let's tax the rich. The anarchists are even like, eat the rich. Yeah. Is what they think is if they bring down the rich percentage, it'll literally go right to the poor. Is what they don't realize is, in order to actually make that happen, that money first has to come from the rich, skip you, go straight to the government, create a bunch of new offices, create a bunch of new employees, so where it actually buoys everybody out at about 33% instead of 99.1, which is a fallacy. And that 1% still collectively pays more in overall taxes than the rest of the 99%. So again, math doesn't lie. Right. Exactly. Math doesn't lie. Yep. But they don't realize that the government costs money to run. They don't do anything. They just cost money, and the bureaucracy expands to meet the needs of the expanding bureaucracy. It's a fucking evil, vicious cycle that will literally eat us to death. And all we're going to do, if we continue down this road, and this is what communism does, is all it does is bring everybody down to an equal level of suffering. You want everybody to be equal? Bring in communism, because everybody will suffer equally. They'll all be fucking miserable, because it's not fucking working. Look at the military. Look at how fucking shitty Russia is at just simply invading an inferior country that was only supposed to take a couple days.
They're not true communists.
They're getting their asses kicked. Russia. I used to fear the Chinese army because they were so big and they have so much economic power. They are incompetent. They are not fucking ready to deploy. They don't understand shit. They are not fucking organized. Their entire deal, including their economy, is based on stealing intellectual property and doing it shittier, but a little cheaper. So they rolled out their impressive aircraft carrier that doesn't even fucking work. They don't even have jets to go on the aircraft carrier. And even if they did, the elevator to bring them from the fucking actual hole where they're stored to bring them up top, the elevator doesn't fucking work, dude. China's a joke. Russia's a fucking joke. All of this shit makes me laugh my ass off at this point, dude.
I still think China's super dangerous.
I used to think that until I really started deep diving it since this Russia shit started. I mean, I went down the deepest of rabbit holes, my guy. And I'm telling you right now, man, they're not. Like, they can't continue their economic game because their whole economy is based on bullshit. It's not just stealing IP. It's also lies in their economy. They're manipulating. It
sounds like America, too, though.
It can't be sustained.
Yep.
But we're playing a dishonest game, honestly. They're playing a dishonest game dishonestly, and two negatives in that scenario don't equal a positive.
I don't know.
It equals a catastrophic collapse that they can't do unless they continue to invade countries, which isn't going to continue. The world has shown their hand. They're not down with Russia invading Ukraine. Therefore, if China tries to move on Taiwan, which they're going to, we're going to World War III. Like, it's only a matter of time.
I think the Ukraine thing is a lot more complicated than that, too, though.
Shit out of everybody is what I'm saying.
I don't think it's a military problem why they can't take. I mean, granted, I think Russia only has like the population of Texas or something weird like that. It's not. They're not like
Russia. Better fucking.
They have a lot of land. They just don't have the same. I mean, the concentration of people isn't the same as
they better fuck. I want you to rant. This is the last thing I'm gonna say. China, Russia, they fucking literally. They're shaking in their boots. They are praying we don't enter this fucking war formally.
Yeah.
Because they know if we actually go to war, dude, it's hilarious. It's overwhelming.
Yeah,
so go ahead.
They definitely don't war. They definitely don't want war. I think the issue here though is I don't think it's just because of military incompetence. I believe that they have a limited way of being able to do this and get away with it. And so if you want Ukraine and you want its resources and a good percent of the population actually does want to be a part of Russia still, which is like a lot of things they don't really tell you on the news that and I don't know what the exact percentage is, but there's a good percentage of people, Ukrainians, that are actually still want to be a part of Russia. So that is what gives Russia some political capital to do what they're doing. But the issue is they don't want to destroy the resources that are there. They don't want. It's not like you could just. It's not like a general war where you're going in and snuffing out an enemy. You still have to do it somewhat diplomatically, even though that sounds kind of contrary to what's actually happening. But I mean, there's a reason why when we do wars, we use proxy armies and we do limited campaigns and things like that. It's because we're not just trying to wipe out everything. There's a strategic reason why we're doing what we're doing. And some of it might be to save face of the rest of the world or not lose allies by going too far or whatever. I'm literally seeing Jared holding his penis right now. Just want you to know that. It's hard to see, though. You're playing with it a little too much. But yeah, no, I think it's not an issue of incompetent military.
I'm a grower, not a shower, baby.
I think there's way more.
I heard you say I have a little penis on my own podcast.
Did I say that? Fact check me, guys. Fact check me. Does
Clip
Jared have a small
Clip
penis?
it and rip it. YouTube granted us. I don't know if it's a beta test and they gave it to everybody, or I don't know if it's because we hit a certain amount of subscribers. But basically, we have the ability now for our fans to make clips. It's no longer my responsibility.
Oh, really?
I can still make my own, obviously. But the fans can finally make clips now. There's a little button. If you go to the live chat thing right now, you can see the little thing. And yeah, clip it and rip it, baby. You said I have a little dick. So now after the podcast, I got to get a half chub and chase you around the house to prove it. Hashtag me too.
Yeah.
No, so here's the thing, man, is like, I don't think everything you're saying is actually true. I think a lot of that is well, I'm just going to say it. I think it's inaccurate, man.
What is it?
So I don't think there are any Ukrainians who want to be a part of Russia. I think I think the people who are being pulled that are saying that is part of the Russian plan. So the way Russia does this shit is they move into a town, and they've been doing this for before this war, they did this very subtly. They were really sneaky. They'd move into a town. They would abduct all the citizens in an entire town. Literally. They would literally abduct them and send them deep into the heart of Russia. And then they would replace them with Russian soldiers. They'd wait a month or two, and then they would go in and film propaganda, and they'd be like, "Oh yeah, we want to be a part of Russia." Oh, and then Russia goes, "See, these are Russians who want to be in Russia." Mm-hmm. It's completely fabricated. It's 100% fabricated.
I think both things can be true. I think that there can be Russian propaganda based on it, but it's also the same thing as like, let's say, for instance, Texas secedes. There are going to be some Texans who love that idea, and there's going to be some Texans that say, "No, we should still be a part of the United States." Like that just that's just a natural thing that does occur in populations. Especially we're talking about something that just kind of recently occurred. Didn't they have like a revolution in like 2014 or something?
Is what they did is they overthrew the corrupt Russian puppet government. And they elected their own
corrupt, their own corrupt government now. Yeah,
and so after Russia created this invasion, they took the old puppet president, because they didn't kill that president. They just exiled him. They just sent him to Russia. They were like, "You're not our president anymore. We're going to be a real democracy now." Mm-hmm. And they've been trying to join NATO ever since, but NATO has a couple of rules. One of them, the main one, is you can't have any border disputes. So as soon as they overthrew their puppet government, Russia turned around and invaded Crimea. Now you have a border dispute and you can't join NATO, because that's what they really wanted to do. So when they did this invasion, one of the first moves they did is they took that exiled puppet president and they moved him into a border town, because they only thought it was going to take a couple days to take Kiev, which is the capital, and they were going to reinstall the same puppet president.
Oh, I think they thought it was going to be easier, but I don't necessarily think that it was necessarily like they don't have the military might to just take over. I think they might have limitations on how they're going to take over.
So that was the second thing you said that I don't think is accurate at all, to be honest, is they are not being strategic to try to prove resources. They're going borderline scorched earth. They are leveling apartment complexes in entire towns. They are targeting civilian. I originally thought that they were targeting like depots and munition factories and logistics complexes that happen to be disguised in civilian. No, they're not. No, they're leveling entire towns. They're completely violating the Geneva Convention. They're executing Ukrainian citizens in the streets. Like, you gotta really like go out of your way and deep dive Twitter. But this shit is overwhelmingly obvious, dude. This war is literally being live streamed. There is no, yes, it's propaganda.
Yeah.
But it is really fucking easy to see which one is unedited and authentic and real, and which one is
I don't disagree
directed.
I don't disagree with most of what you said. I do believe what's happening, what you say is happening. I just think it's a lot more nuanced than just to say that they're just incompetent.
Oh, to me, that was the third thing. So the footage, I mean, if you're a gun owner, you shoot weapons. You shot an AR. I imagine you've probably got one of your hillbilly hick friends that fucking figured out a way to mod something, and you've shot either something at least semi-auto, if not full auto. But even so, if it's just, and when I say semi-auto, I mean like burst semi-auto.
So what are you saying you saw?
You know how to hold a weapon.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm going to say.
So you're saying that some of the soldiers they're sending don't know how to hold...
Not some.
Right, and I've also heard that they are sending their fodders. They're literally sending fodder to do their shit, too.
Is what I'm wondering, based on the way their military is currently outfitted, the way their propaganda machine runs, the technology they're using, like when Ukraine got the drone with the Canon camera, like they literally took a fucking Canon camera that's like $300 on Amazon, and they put it in a fucking drone. That's their surveillance drone. Like, dude, they did not keep up their military, which is why I also no longer fear their ability to nuke the world and destroy everything. Like, clearly they've neglected
Yeah,
their military.
I don't hold that belief.
They're
no.
not a real threat anymore. They're not the number 2 superpower in the world militarily wise.
No.
Somebody else is. It's either India or it's fucking China or Korea or Japan. We don't know who it is. But somebody else is number 2. It's not fucking Russia, dude.
Yeah, I don't know.
They're incompetent.
Don't get what I'm.
But I've also
misunderstand what I'm saying.
I've also
I don't
heard
believe
exactly what you said. Is that they haven't sent in their real military.
Yes,
I've also heard that too.
Yep. And
I've also heard
there's
they're getting rid of the old
strategic reason why you would send your fodder in to do this shit, like, because who knows? They don't know where this is going. They are pushing some boundaries here too.
Yeah. You might be right. I
think they're cutthroat enough to go, hey, send our expendables for this first thing, right? And it could have also been because they thought it was going to be easier than it was, and it wasn't, right? And if it does turn into World War III, well, you just threw a whole bunch of people to sent them to death already, and now you got to fight America.
Have you ever been in a fist fight?
Yeah.
So you know what it looks like when another dude is in a fight and doesn't know how to fight.
Mm-hmm.
You only need a split second to make that judgment. Oh, this dude's going to get his ass kicked. What the fuck is going on? Most people know that, including people who haven't been in a fist fight. Like, oh, that dude's going to die, right?
Yeah.
Okay. That equally translates to people who are shooting weapons. Because honestly, I hate to say this because I am a gun owner. I have a concealed carry permit. I go to the range. Like, I own an AR. Like, not to try to sound badass, is what I'm saying is even in movies, people who aren't gun owners know what somebody who knows what they're doing looks like. So if that's true, I don't see why Russia would film idiots at war play as their propaganda. That's what doesn't add up to me.
I see what
as the cannon fodder, like, oh, we're sending our bullshit to it's like, that doesn't build morale in your country to believe you could win this war, because I also watch the Russian propaganda through YouTube and I see the crazy shit they say on their state television about nuking Poland and fucking the fact that Finland and Sweden want to join NATO is America like officially declaring war on Russian sovereignty. Like, they're insane over there, dude.
I agree. See, I think you're getting. I understand that last point, but I still think that you kind of like. I don't believe Russia is really a threat to the United States. Like, I don't think of them as a military threat. They could do some damage, sure, but I don't think that we have to worry about Russia. I'm not worried about China's military. I'm worried about how China is economically. And you say there's a lot of bullshit thing going on. They look at us and go, you guys are, and they've said it, you guys are bullshitting with this stuff too. And they see it as a problem, so they have to game the system too. I'm not making a moral argument for China doing what they're doing.
Sounds
with the money.
like you're a Chinese sympathizer.
No, yeah, you could say that, I guess. I'm just saying, like,
why don't you move to China?
I'm saying there's still a scary situation, right? Granted, we can always take, like, they have, Chinese assets in the United States. They own some of our businesses and ports or whatever. Like, they have control over some of the things that go on, right? Some of our tollways, right? They get the money from the tolls. Because we've borrowed money for infrastructure, because we borrow money from China. We borrow money, so I think that's we all know that, I hope by now. But we could always take that back and say, "Fuck you, China."
Yeah, exactly.
We could always do that. And what are they going to do?
Right.
But I think
that's my point. Is if we default on those loans, try and invade us, you fucks. You don't have a goddamn chance. Like, the world honestly wants us to join this war, except for Russia and China. Russia and China are just like, how do we make sure?
But here's the
America
issue:
doesn't actually join this war.
We have people with our own government that are so wrapped up in China too, that they are virtually owned by China as well. So how are we ever going to default on those things and just take them back?
No, we would just not pay.
Yeah, I just don't see it happening. I think that China is influencing our politicians so much that
this is probably what will prevent China from invading Taiwan. Because if they invade a true American ally like that, we would just go, okay, we're done with you, and fuck your loans. like take us to world
I
civil
think-
court.
I think there's-
sue us, bitch.
Yeah.
Like fuck you. You ain't doing shit. You invaded Taiwan. That violates our economic treaties, including all the loans we had with you. Eat shit. Suck our dicks.
But still not going to
I
happen.
guarantee you that's exactly what'll happen. Like if they
Because
invade
who-
Taiwan,
but-
we're not paying those loans. I guarantee you.
But who decides that?
I guarantee you it's written into the loans. Like you can't evade a direct literal American ally because Hong Kong was not a direct literal American ally. That was a country contractually supposed to be given back to China after Britain left.
I just
and they
don't see
wanted to
proof
stay
that
in the
that'll
plan.
actually happen. Like
I guarantee you it's written into the loan.
I don't think. Still, I don't care if it's written in the law. I just don't see it happening.
No, the loan.
I still don't think it's going to happen. Because the reason why is because
So you think if they invaded Taiwan, we would just keep paying them?
probably not. I mean, something might happen, but we're not just going to be. We're not going to be like, oh, we're not going to do anything. But I don't think it'll be as serious as cutting China off altogether. Because it's still mutual beneficial for us, and especially some of the people in power that have connections with China.
You're talking about the corporations. You're talking about Disney. You're talking about Nike. You're talking about the NBA. These are huge markets
and
in
politicians,
China.
and politicians that have direct, businesses in China and arrangements with China. So I just don't ever see us ever cutting. I think China could get away with a lot. We might do something, but I think that's also a part of what Trump's problem was too, was the fact that he was willing to fucking push that China button and nobody else is.
The way this is being described is it starting to make us feel as Americans is that we've been cuckolded by China. And that's never going to fly with the American ego.
I don't know that
That's never going to fly with the American ego. Don't tell us we can't. Don't fucking tell us we can't say fuck you.
I don't know.
Because I'm telling you, this is how the country as a total
I think America bitches out.
No, hell no. 9/11 proved that. We didn't give a fuck who attacked us, dude. The entire country united and said, let's go kick some fucking ass. Everybody wanted to go to war. It was only like a couple.
Oh, you're talking about like American sentiment versus like an actual reality. Because we didn't kick terrorism's ass at all.
No, but we wanted to. And we were all unified against it for a long time. It took a while before people started going, wait a minute, I think we've been duped on this WMD in Iraq shit. Like, very few people were like, hey, let's slow down before we go to war here. Everyone was like, fuck them. This is our Pearl Harbor. Let's go to fucking war. Almost everybody I knew tried to join the military.
But see, but have you noticed, though, that still our politicians didn't attack the direct source? And if China's
Saudi Arabia, that's what you're
exactly.
talking about.
So we let Saudi get away with everything. We get the Saudis get away with everything. I
see what you're saying.
Obviously, there's backdoor things that are going on. Where hey, wait, you probably shouldn't do that. Blah blah blah. Between countries that happens. Same with Israel and there's things that happen that we still allow to happen. But I don't think we'd ever cut them off, ever, because that money is way more powerful.
Well, a lot of people that I listen to and respect on the left side of things that are like deep, they're not that surface level lefty shit.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean deep as in like far to the left. I mean like they really consider the long term and like they're still super pro America. And they're like, dude, why do you think we're going electric? It's not because of some virtue signaling bullshit. It's because we do not want to answer to Saudi or anybody else. And if we go electric, we don't any of their bullshit. So there's some deep state level to that shit where it's about long-term American independence without having to worry about proxy wars,
possibly
false funding of Middle Eastern wars, because they're looking at it long-term, like the amount of money we're wasting in the Middle East trying to stabilize that area so we can keep buying oil. It's just not good for us mathematically. So we want to get out of that and get on that electric
I do think that.
I don't know if that's true, but I've heard those motherfuckers
say
make
I
that
do
argument.
think that there are some long-term plannings done by the Pentagon and Department of Defense, and I think that there is some long-term planning, but generally
transitions and transcends presidencies.
But we generally don't. We're not very good at it.
Like, why do we think Obama campaigned on one thing and then got into office and did another?
Yeah.
It's because there's other people behind the scenes to
trying
create
to push
consistency.
The same,
and it's to create consistency, because if every 4 years we actually allowed you to change everything, we would become a volatile and unstable nation like India.
Well, because you're only really changing out a person in and maybe as cabinet or something, but still the major power players are still there. So you still have the same programs in works. You still have a lot of shit going on.
That's really the point of
it's
of
never
like,
a full transition.
What I was taught, the whole point of American democracy is that there aren't any dramatic changes that can happen at some guy's whim, which is why people like you and I have so many issues with the power that the president has. It's like, dude, one guy shouldn't be able to change that much that fast. Like, that's the whole point. It's like, no, you don't control everything, dude. Like, slow down, bro.
But see, the thing is, like, you know, when Israel bombed the USS Liberty.
Shout out to the thought police. I don't know if we're being trolled or if they're complimenting us, but he said, arrest these thought criminals.
Oh, yes. I just don't. I think we let people off. You know, there was an incident where the USS Liberty was shot up by Israeli pilots. Not just shot, but also tried to hit with torpedoes from submarines and everything. Like, this was a calculated move to take out an American ship by the Israelis. But they're our allies. So why were they trying to do this?
False flag.
Exactly. They wanted us to go to war with Egypt. I think that's the
they were going to blame it on Egypt.
Yeah, they wanted to do that. And it only stopped because a Russian ship had showed up. There was a witness, basically, to see what was going on, or just happened to be in that area, and that's the only thing that stopped. Because I think they were subject to bombing for like 3 hours, and that ship would not sink no matter what they were doing. But they were strafing.
It's because we're too badass because of the military-industrial complex, which you don't believe in, buddy.
And the sailor,
you fucking commie.
I'm not making that kind of statement at all.
I'm kidding.
I'm just saying that they weren't successful.
I'm kidding.
But they were they were strafing even sailors who were on rafts for their lives.
I heard about this a long time ago.
And this was deliberate. Even the people on the ship knew who was shooting at them. So then just to say that the Israelis didn't know who they were shooting at is a bunch of bullshit. And they were also jamming radars and stuff like that. Well, we scrambled jets because we didn't know what was going to happen. The White House scrambled jets. Go stop this or whatever. As soon as they heard it was Israel, turned around. We let people get away with shit. I just think that will always kind of happen depending on political reasons.
Interesting.
I mean, there's real life precedents that states that we let people get away with shit and be manipulated by stuff. And I just think I understand that it's way more complicated. Like, I couldn't just run a government and do better, like, per se. Like, I don't know how to do these things. Just not saying I could do something better. Or would I just automatically go to war with anybody who attacked us? That would be stupid. There's strategic reasons why you go, okay, they hit. It's like the same guy. Some guy hit me. Do I hit them back? I don't have to hit them back right now. You know what I mean?
But I think what is true is that we're no longer electing the right people who are deep and thoughtful thinkers. I think we're electing people that have learned how to manipulate us emotionally.
Yeah, it's a business.
Yeah, and then once these people get in power, they make emotional decisions as well. They're not acting like they did 50 to 70 years ago.
I don't know.
And I know that because of the way some of these people communicate on things like Twitter. Like,
I think Trump was capable of making emotional decisions. I think he was capable of doing more knee-jerk things. But I kind of still feel like there's a lot more calculation involved with politicians now.
Well, I feel like Ilhan Omar is a great example, right? So I feel like she is still she is not on a good path, and it has nothing to do with her philosophical beliefs or her principles. Her problem is her and her team are all about the attention and the likes. She's trying to be a rock star, not a musician.
And for some reason, I never hear about her anymore.
So the way she does shit and her rhetoric online, it's just insanely divisive. It's not constructive. Her and AOC started off on the same path, but AOC took a different turn. And the longer AOC has been in office, the more rational and thoughtful she becomes. That is not true for somebody like Ilhan Omar. And they were 100% aligned at the beginning. And they still team up for their, like, left democratic women of power things. But honestly, man, like, those two chicks no longer have any... Like, honestly, man, AOC has turned into quite the fucking professional. Like, she's... Even if you don't like her or agree with her, she's thoughtful. She really sits down and thinks about these things. I don't disagree
with everything she says, but I don't agree with everything she says either.
But either way, I don't give a fuck. She's thoughtful. She's a deep thinker. She's considerate, and she's objective, because she's actually brought up a lot of points that don't align with her own party. She's starting to almost turn into like a
She's
Tulsi
actually
Gabbard.
done that from the beginning, actually.
But but there was a lot of things that were obvious that she towed the company line at the beginning. Here's my point. Ilhan Omar, it doesn't matter what the actual morals or principles or company line is. It's whatever's going to get the most Twitter likes, whatever's going to get her attention
so, huh?
and get her back into the news, because she's not getting enough press and she's not getting enough news. So it's very clickbaity. She's the TMZ of politics right now in Minnesota.
And that's what's weird about that is I never see her. She never comes across my news feeds at all. Everybody else does, but she doesn't.
On Twitter?
No, I'm on Twitter, but I barely ever pay attention to it.
I literally follow her because she's my senator.
Yeah,
like she represents my district. And that's one of the biggest things that pisses me off, is it's like, you're supposed to represent me, but you're trying to fight these virtue signaling, pandering wars, and you're worried more about other people in other countries. Like, you're supposed to be worried about our fucking neighborhood, woman, like us, right?
But
fucking here.
I think that's still pretty
shit about
I think that's calculated. I think that's but I think there's political power in advocating for those things, especially bullshit. Right, there's political capital that can be gained from doing that stuff. That's what I'm getting
at. Whereas AOC stopped going down that road, less and less. Like I have a
theory on her.
I'm building respect for AOC. The longer AOC stays in office, the more respect I have for her. That's not true for Elon.
I can't say that.
The more Elon stays in office, the more I realize she's the blue female version of Trump. Everything is about racism and white supremacy for her. Fuck that bitch. I'm telling you, man, she is the worst. She is the female version of Trump, and I'm telling you, she's dangerous, man. AOC, the exact opposite. And they started off in the same spot. They were teammates. You know what I mean? It was her and Kamala Harris and a couple other females.
I have a theory on the AOC thing, though, because I do, now that she's been there, she's got a taste of that life. I think part of that, she has dialed it back, because now she really does have to think about being reelected and things like that.
Oh, so you think it's corruption and she's almost been flipped?
I think, not necessarily that she's been flipped, but I think she's starting to realize I need to protect what I have.
Because she got rich.
Yeah. Honestly, like, I could see,
might be right.
I could see why that would happen.
And that's what they say to a lot of people is, give a liberal a couple $1 million and they'll become a conservative overnight.
I'm not even saying, I know that saying, but I don't necessarily think that. I think she still believes the things that she's doing, but I think she's smarter about what she's doing. She's being more calculated because she's got more things to think about now, and she doesn't want this lifestyle to end. Now that she's got a taste of it, she doesn't want to get unelected and see what happens. You know what I mean?
Is what I really found interesting, though, is like her rhetoric is slow, and she still tries to pander towards like tax the rich shit when when she hypocritically and ironically showed up at the Met Gala.
Yeah. But she had to make it into something else, which
I get that.
Seems like a bullshit.
It's smart politics is what it is.
Yeah.
Like if I'm her campaign manager.
She still got to hang out with these people, but then she also made a statement to kind of appease.
Exactly, right?
It's like bullshit.
Brilliant. It's actually brilliant.
But it's bullshit.
It's fucking genius is what it really is. Like, mad respect to that strategy, to that team who came up with that idea. That's great publicity. That's whoever her publicist is. It's probably the same person.
Yeah, because the people who liked her are going to like her, and the people that don't, you know what I mean? It didn't really damage shit. But the people that see bullshit, of course, are going to say bullshit. At least that was clear bullshit.
The math adds up to a win. Like, that's a win.
Yeah.
But she slowly went away from just attacking like billionaires to like she started to go towards like straight up corruption and like government spending, but the way she's doing it, so she's like doing this genius job, and maybe it is ethics and morals, maybe it's pandering, maybe it's posturing because she wants to be the first female president. Who the fuck knows? But is what she did is what I've noticed, and I hope other people have noticed this too, is instead of her just attacking billionaires, is what she's doing is she's attacking billionaires who are exposing contracts and government spending. You see what I'm saying? So like people who are taking on government contracts and then exploiting the taxpayers. You see what I'm getting at? Because even Republicans are down with that shit. They're like, yeah, man, that's not cool. You're wasting tax dollars. See what I'm getting at? She'll go after Zuckerberg for taking on fucking foreign money to corrupt an election, because even Republicans
it's-
don't like the
it's-
Russians.
it's funny that
you see what I'm saying?
it's
Like,
funny that
she's a genius, dude. Like mad respect to AOC.
It's funny that
And almost everybody would bang. So
it's funny. It's funny that Elon thought she was talking about him. Because
really? I don't know about this. Tell me what you're talking
she
about.
was kind of vague posting about billionaires controlling social media, whatever like that. But she was talking about Zuckerberg. And Elon, for instance, like, oh, she's talking about me, and he wrote her, said, "Don't flirt with me, I'm shy," or something like that, or something like that.
Wow.
And she's like, well, and she wrote this. She wrote back, said, "I'm actually talking about Zuckerberg, but okay," or something like that. but then I think she deleted that part. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she should just left it what it was. You know,
because that's a badass comeback. That's friend zoning you. Like, no, I'm not flirting with you, dork.
Yeah, but it was the funny thing because I think that was one of the times that Elon it still equaled out to a win for Elon in a way, but I think that was one of those times where he got ahead of himself.
Yeah,
so he got
ahead
narcissistic
there. Yeah,
he got ahead of himself. He must be talking about me.
Not everything's about you.
Yeah,
but
but he was also eager to use that line because she's the one that said that conservatives just don't like her because they want to date her, because she had said that shit too. You ever saw that?
No.
She claimed the reason why Republicans or conservatives hate her is because they really want to date her, and she posted that shit.
No, I think most
and that's
people.
funny to me. Like
at the beginning, I think most people hated her because she didn't know what the fuck she was talking about, and she literally was shooting from the hip, and she did not seem qualified. Like in any way.
I don't care about.
Most people don't know how she got elected. It feels like it was based, but I'm glad she's there, man, because it seems like she actually gives a fuck about people, and she's not trying to bankrupt America in the process. Whereas again, Ilhan Omar, all she wants to do is spend money. That's her attitude. Is just let's fund this, let's pass this into law, let's end the filibuster now.
Mm-hmm.
She's just so fucking. Ugh. She just reminds me of Trump so much. It makes me sick. It literally does. Like, we got to get her out of. She's not good for this country. Just like Trump wasn't. Trump wasn't fucking socially. The rhetoric, the way he made people fight with each other, like, that's not good for us. It's really not. Neither is Elon, man.
The thing is I don't. To be honest with you, I don't know, because you can get somebody who's divisive like that and make people fight, but I think. At the same time, bringing us back together and not learning from this stuff would be even worse of a situation. Like, I think that what's going to happen is naturally going to happen because of you can't like have exponential growth of population and then more government and not have conflict.
So I'll give you a specific example because you keep going. I just don't know. Okay, well, here's a great example. Almost verbatim. The shit Ilhan Omar has been preaching, and I quite literally mean preaching from her fucking soapbox, virtue signaling, pandering, the whole 9 yards. Almost everything she's been talking about white supremacy, this, and Nazi this, and right-wing extremism, that.
Mm-hmm.
In context, if you take the bird's eye view, it is almost verbatim to the Russian propaganda about denazifying Ukraine to justify their invasion.
Oh, yeah.
This bitch is a fucking communist, and if you don't fucking see it, you are biased or ignorant or blind. Like, not you, the proverbial you. Because I'm telling you, man, like, people that say, oh, no, dude, I'm telling you, man, there's a huge white supremacy Nazi presence in Ukraine. No, there's fucking not, dude. I deep dive this thing so hard. At most, there at one point in time in that one fucking battalion, the Aziz or whatever the fuck they're called.
Like,
whatever the fuck they're called. It doesn't matter. At most, there was like 4,500 of them. When this war started, they were down to between 900 and 1,500. Now, they think there might be a few dozen left after the siege of Mariupol. Like, stop acting. Because I even heard at the beginning of this thing that there's a white supremacist Nazi party that is the third largest political party in Ukraine.
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know. I fact checked that.
Yeah.
It's completely fabricated. That was Eastern European pro-Russian propaganda that was being pushed. That's what I'm saying, man. When you just do the fucking spreadsheet, when you just look at the math, everything Ilhan Omar says basically sounds like it's coming from the Kremlin. It's destabilization. It's literally propaganda to try to fucking create infighting from within. This bitch has got to go. She's got to go. I'm telling you right now, man. She's not pro-America. She's not pro-democracy. She's not pro-freedom. She doesn't give a fuck about black people. It's all pandering. It's Russian propaganda. Because she's sitting here trying to convince you and me that the KKK and white supremacy is a legitimate threat to American security. Do the math. Look it up. You can Google it. How many KKK members are currently existing in America? And it will blow your fucking mind. They almost don't exist. It's not a real... Yes, it's a problem. But it's not a real problem.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
It's not a real problem. Fuck off. That's what I'm saying. So now that we've seen all the bullshit that Putin and the Kremlin are saying... You rewind 2 years during the George Floyd riots, where I quote Ilhan Omar, because I listened to her on the radio. American democracy and capitalism are racist to their core, and they need to be torn down to their foundation and rebuilt from the ground up. That is communism talk. That is Marxism talk, man.
I agree.
Fuck her off in her stupid fucking face. Let's get her out of office, just like we did Trump, so we can get back to some fucking normal, civil, good faith, honest, genuine conversations on how to actually fix problems. Because all that bitch wants to do is destroy America and bankrupt us. Fuck her. I'm done with my rant.
See, and when I say things like I don't know, there's the thought where we could just have great people in office, or people that are just middle of the road, never really make a whole lot of waves or whatever. And it's is that ultimately good for us too? I don't really know what the answer is, or is it we need to see how ridiculous shit gets before we actually have change? Some of it seems like a blessing in disguise to have crazy people in office. I don't know, because it does wake people up. But it just happens to be at a really bad time where we're all fucking divided.
I just realized, in case anybody, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I just realized, in case anybody doubts me accusing her of being a Russian sympathizer, I'll give you another quote. She said, we need to be careful and reconsider sending arms to Ukraine, especially when we know that those arms are going to end up in the hands of extreme right-wing white supremacist militias. Again, we're talking about 400 people she's worried about. She wants us to stop an arms deal to help the sovereignty of Ukraine because 400 racists might get their hands on those weapons.
Yeah.
She's a Russian sympathizer.
It's weird.
She's a Russian sympathizer.
It's a weird that she would use that argument. I agree. That doesn't pass the sniff test.
Sus.
But I don't know if I don't know that she necessarily is.
I saw Ilhan Omar in the engine room before lights went out. I'm telling you, I'm hard sussing Ilhan Omar right now. She's the imposter. Clip that, fuckers.
Yeah. No, I
you don't know what I just referenced to you. It's a video game. It's Among Us. It's a whole stupid. Oh, yeah, it's dumb. That was a bad joke. That was a bad dad joke. An abadabadab joke.
But yeah, I for
deep
her to
diver,
deep
diver.
Yeah, for her to use that. No, I mean I've researched her. But I haven't paid attention to the last few months. I don't see anything. I don't know if it's because of algorithms or what. It just never crosses my mind. It never crosses my feed or whatever. But
continue your point. For her to use that statement.
Yeah, that would seem fishy if that's what she's using that as an excuse. Why not to send arms to Ukraine?
Right, because I
don't think we should send arms to Ukraine anyway.
I did a basic Google search though. It took me 45 minutes to deep dive this whole white supremacist Nazi party in Ukraine. Literally, you can do basic Google searches. White supremacy and Nazism is not a tangible problem or issue in Ukraine. It's just like any other country in the world. It's 0.5 or 0.05% or 0.005%.
And nobody's saying it's good that these people exist by any means, but the threat of them has been magnified for political reasons.
Exactly.
You'll probably never run into a KKK member ever in your life.
The odds are so slim. Yeah, unless you're a black dude living in the South where those KKK members happen to be concentrated. Then it might be an everyday experience for you.
Yeah.
But then you are the one guy who actually can say white supremacy and the KKK are a direct threat to my daily life.
If you look at numbers, there's a lot more shit that's more dangerous than that we should be concerned about than that. So I just think we overinflate things for political reasons.
Yeah.
Like your chances of getting struck by lightning or whatever. What's the word? I can't remember. Like even getting shot by police, your statistics for anybody getting shot by police is like super slim, right? There's not that many that actually happen. It's, or at least
but your statistics for having your civil rights violated by police are astronomically high.
Oh, yeah.
Cops love to fucking violate your shit. Well, and it doesn't matter what color
and now
you
it's
are.
getting crazier too because they have all this technology with cell phones, and they're kind of overstepping what their whole point was too. But they can eavesdrop on stuff way easier now with like Stingray technology and all this stuff that they're doing. It's like, who knows where this is gonna go? I mean, the cops are gonna continue to get more militarized as time goes by. It's just the natural order of things. Look at a cop, look at a cop from 80 years ago compared to what a cop has now. They're fucking damn near fucking militaristic looking now in looks and everything. So
that's my biggest problem. That is my so
armored vehicles.
We kind of got through, and I really wanted to talk to you about my opinion on the Russian disinformation and propaganda rhetoric that has been echoed through American politics, because that's what I really want people. I'm attacking Ilhan Omar, but I really want people to think about what the metaphor I was actually speaking about, which is there's a lot of left-wing rhetoric for the last 4 years that has been preaching white supremacy is fucking this and racism that, telling you all, for a fact that Russian troll farms exist. You know for a fact
it is true,
that the Russians manipulated that election through Facebook. You know for a fact that they created division within our nation. And I'm telling you, put the fucking pieces together. I'm not asking you, I'm not suggesting, I'm telling you, do the research. Don't trust me. Do the fucking research, because that rhetoric, that racism, that white supremacy shit, that is Russian disinformation to create destabilization, and they're using the same strategy right now to justify their war in Ukraine, you guys. We need to stop fighting with each other on these arbitrary, racist, bullshit arguments and start getting to the core
I would
of
even
what
argue
we're actually up against, which is countries like Russia that want domination of themselves, for themselves, and countries like China who believe in Chinese supremacy. China actually thinks about, I just said it like Trump, China thinks about other Asians as inferior. That's an actual problem to world sovereignty and world stability. But nobody's talking about this because it's not hip, it's not sexy. It doesn't make them feel involved to worry about China.
Here's the thing, too.
If you worry about the Uyghurs in China, that doesn't make you feel good because you don't see that. But that's a real issue that we should be talking about, is Chinese slavery. Disney censoring black people on movie covers so they can sell more fucking movie tickets over in China because China doesn't want things to happen. The new rendition with Chris Hemsworth of the remake of Red Dawn. We were supposed to be invaded by China in that movie.
Yeah.
But China flipped the fuck out, and they made us change that to North Korea.
Mm-hmm.
And if you watch that movie again, you can deep dive. Again, don't trust me. Fact check me, because I know I'm right on this one. Fact check it. You'll actually see errors in the movie where they replace the Chinese flag with the North Korean flag. You'll see a couple of errors in the edits of that shit.
I also want to make a comment, though. When it comes to the Russian disinformation thing, there are people who are also saying everything is Russian disinformation, even if it's true, though. So, like Russia has bots.
Give us an example.
Well, just like on particular issues, like trying to divide us on things that might be right or wrong. They're purposely stirring up the argument, even though they might be sharing memes and things that are actually technically right.
And some of them are
but they're using
funny.
But they're using it to stir up the pot. It doesn't mean that it's automatically wrong. So still try to be objective when you're looking at that stuff, because obviously they're going to lie and make themselves look good, but they're also going to tell the truth when it helps serve them too. And that's the same thing what I say about the left and the right, is sometimes they tell the truth. Sometimes Fox News tells the truth. Sometimes NBC and CNN tells the truth. It's
great point, dude.
It's when it serves them.
Great point, dude.
So you can't just automatically dismiss it, because that's one of my irks that I've seen.
I do that. I don't believe a goddamn thing that comes out of the Kremlin. Literally, it could be the truth.
Yeah. But you got to look into it. Like, if you're going to look into it, so I'm
going to give an example of where I got duped very recently. Russia accused Ukraine of war crimes. And I said, fuck you. and then I deep dived it on Twitter because even
It
even
seems
now,
weird.
no, they did that shit. Like it was
the poisoning food.
there was a few different occasions, and it was mostly it's the Azov. It's not the Aziz.
Oh, yep,
it's the Azov.
that's what it is.
It's the Azov battalion. That's that racist, crazy. They are absolutely guilty of war crimes. That single group of like I said, they're down to like a couple dozen. Yeah, there's only 24 of them, but they did some horrendous shit. And at the end of this war, they need to be held accountable.
What do they do?
I'm not comfortable trying to quote
Okay,
what they did, but basically they captured and executed a bunch of Russian soldiers. This is the nutshell. I'm not willing to go into detail because I might be I might be very specifically wrong on what happened. But essentially is what happened is a bunch of Russian soldiers surrendered, and instead of taking them as POWs, like what has typically happened in wars, or in this war, what happens is they just send them back to Russia, and they walk them in like a walk of shame, like Game of Thrones, because there's footage of that happening earlier in the war. The Azov, they just straight up executed them. Like fucking.
Oh, well,
like,
from what I understand, they are pretty straight up militia, like hardcore.
And that shit makes militias look bad. So it's not just a Ukrainian problem. It's not just highlighting the issue of war crimes. It also makes all militias look bad. Just like when one white dude fucking does a legitimate hate crime against a black person, that makes all white people look bad. That's what I'm saying now is like, yeah, dude, what they did makes legitimate militias look bad. It makes governments distrust the ability of
because
an actual militia.
It's weird because when you're being invaded, it sucks. Like you're invading me, but I got to stick to these rules. I get the hard, because even like you break into my house,
then you take them as POWs. Then you take them as POWs, dude. And I get it. I get it, man. Like our own soldiers have been at issues with this.
Mm-hmm.
Where we were in Afghanistan, and our soldiers parachuted into a mountainside, and they got discovered by a goat farmer, and they had to grab him and hold him, and they sat there and they had to make debates. Do we let him go? Because if we let him go, we're definitely dead. We will not make it off this mountain by the time he gets back to town. So you got to make an ethical decision. And this is, again, why I still wholeheartedly believe in. And this is newly invigorated. This is a new belief because I had lost all faith. But after watching the way Russia's doing war and having a lot of friends who are vets and looking at a lot of documentation as to what we actually do, American war criminals are about as common as Ukrainian white supremacists. It's like 0.00005% of the total force out there. The way we do war, man, we could see a woman being raped and we're not allowed to engage because they haven't actually shot at us. We do war different, man. We do. We have ethic. We have the closest version of what's called ethical combat that's ever existed on planet Earth. And I'm not willing.
I agree.
To pretend we're not doing that. There's individual humans who fuck that up for us and make us all look bad. And that's what we typically do. We take the worst examples of a few douchebags in the American military and we say that, or our enemies say that's what America is. No, it's not, man. That's a few. And we hold them, and this is my point to finish up my rant. We hold them highly accountable. We do. Once it's exposed and we discover it, oh, fuck that. Everybody who was down with that shit, all the way up the chain of command, you're all fucked. You're all fucked.
I don't know the numbers.
You're all fucked.
I don't know the numbers, but I think...
But other countries don't hold their people accountable like that. And it's not fair to compare the Russian invasion of Ukraine to the American invasion of Iraq. It's not fair. The American invasion of Afghanistan, it's not fair. Like, it's just not... Again, it's not even apples to oranges, dude. It's just not. And I can't, in one podcast, I couldn't...
We're talking about two different things. Like,
I'm blending two different things.
Yeah, like...
Is what I'm trying to say is I couldn't in one podcast, I couldn't in 50 podcasts disseminate this. Like, because I'm not a war strategist, but I've deep dived this shit, and I know so many people who've been trying to convince me for years that I was wrong, and I'm finally seeing it their way. Like you said, 1 out of 5. Right now, on these things, I'm completely polar opposite where I would have been 10 years ago. I'm like, nah, you guys don't get it anymore. Like, because I've been re-educated. Almost like I've gone to a camp, right?
Yeah.
But it's not forced on me. This is years of me sitting down here and thinking deeply and thoughtfully and going, oh, now I understand the boomers weren't completely out of their mind. Like, they actually saw evil and have been fighting to prevent this from, but now it's all right there back at the forefront, man. And we're,
yeah, so
we have to start reevaluating our actual principles, to go back to what you said, to revalidate your point. Mm-hmm. We need to unbiasedly reevaluate our principles and understand our perspectives. And my buddy Kevin is the one who really, it makes you think about shit, man. Like, because we have been raised in a point of privilege to where we've never experienced anything like this. And we're on the verge of being drafted, my guy. Like, it might get so bad in the next 5 to 10 years that you and I, way past 35, mm-hmm. are going to get drafted and go to war. You and I might be thrust into fucking officer or sergeant situations where we're literally leading teenagers, my guy, 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds into battle to die. And you and I are the ones literally talking about, like, dude, is it worth us sacrificing 8 men to take that hill?
I know, yeah, you gotta make those kind of calls.
Now we are the ones evaluating human mm-hmm. life. To go back, to bring it full circle back to the beginning of our conversation. Now you and I are in the exact same situation that we just got done criticizing everything we talked about, because we've never been in that situation. And that's what I think is so mind-blowing about all of this, man. We don't know, and none of us know, including some of the people who've already been there and fought in these wars. That's what fucks me up. Is like, dude, we've been doing this for thousands of years and we still haven't figured it out. What is the hubris that exists in every modern day American where they think they can tweet out the fucking answer?
Yep.
You know, I hope that resonates with everybody that's listening right now. Who are you to tweet out that you know the answer when these issues have existed for 50 years, 70 years, thousands of years, and we haven't resolved shit?
You see, you know, when I try to say when I don't know something, I don't know, like, if this is the ultimate good, the better good, the greater good. I don't know these things, so that's why I'll preface it by saying that I don't know. So that's why I always come back to the whole moral argument. That's why, and I get it. Like, our troops, we have rules of engagement. We have things for our troops to conduct. And I'm not blaming troops. I'm not saying troops are bad or should be spit on when they come back. I'm not any of that stuff. I think that our leaders put them in places they shouldn't be. And look at how many, the suicides daily by veterans. I mean, it's crazy. That number is crazy.
Yeah,
isn't it like 20-something a day or something? That's like ridiculous.
Yeah, and you're 100% correct. And I hope I'm not sitting here sounding like a war hawk justifying every American aggression, because I'm not. Honestly, in my heart, I'm kind of like Mel Gibson in The Patriot. This is kind of how I personally feel, right? Like, I ain't trying to join your war, fight your fucking campaign for your own fucking gains and political. Mm-hmm. These are bullshit ideas. Until you attack me and the ones I love, and then I'm gonna murder all of you motherfuckers. Like, that's what I'm trying to say. Like, that is America, kind of. Like, don't fuck with us. 9/11's a perfect example. We don't care who did it. We didn't care who did it.
It was time to go to the military for a second there.
We got bombed on 9/11.
Oh.
Right? May have been a plane, but we got bombed. And we didn't care who did it. We were willing to murder the entire world. You don't fuck with us. So not just Jared, but the entire country is Mel Gibson in The Patriot. Like, dude, we don't want any part of your bullshit, because we don't want to kill people. But if you fucking murder somebody we love about, motherfucker, we will scorch earth this motherfucker to bring justice.
but we learned,
ironically funny,
exactly how that emotion can be used to drive us and be steered in the wrong direction too. I mean, we still have nothing happened to Saudis at all. When almost all of them, 80% or more, were from Saudi Arabia.
That's the other thing I love about America is we will hold ourselves accountable. Like maybe you won't hold yourself accountable, but I'll hold you accountable and you'll hold me accountable because I can't do it for myself. That's what we do in America because of freedom of speech, right? So we have the ability to accuse each other of being sellouts. Like literally, because that's what we're saying. Is like we sold out our own integrity because we were making enough money from Saudi Arabia.
Mm-hmm.
In other countries across the world, you'd be murdered for saying that. Literally.
Yep.
Like you can't do that.
And I
Again,
get
freedom of speech, bitch, Constitution.
And I'm not trying to oversimplify.
It's impressive what we've done here.
I'm not trying to oversimplify.
It's not perfect, but it's impressive.
I'm not trying to oversimplify my positions on stuff, even though it might sound like it sometimes, because I understand there's more to domestic or I should say foreign relations with other countries. And why obviously you can't necessarily blame Saudi Arabia for the 9/11 attacks. Because who knows? I'm not saying they were related, but but most of those people came from there and said we went somewhere where the people didn't come from at all.
Facts.
So that's what I'm saying. I'm not. We have these relations with these countries for other reasons.
But slow down, because I know exactly what you're talking about. Explain to the people what you're referring to as the petrodollar deal.
Explain
to people what that means.
I can't go into great detail about that, but I mean, we're all tied into United States kind of forces everybody to use the U.S. dollar in trade for oil.
Sort of. So the more eloquent way to say that is like literally back in the 70s or 80s, we signed a deal with Saudi Arabia that said Saudi Arabia will only accept the American dollar for sale of their oil. And they were the number one producer and have been the number one producer of oil in the world ever since then. So in order for other people to buy oil in the world,
they got to use US
They got to use the US, which means they need to trade for our currency, which literally made our currency the standard in the world.
True, yeah.
So everyone else's currency, how do you know what a yen is worth?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we compare it to the American dollar because that's what oil is. But so basically, we replaced the gold standard with the oil standard, and that was because of this deal. And in exchange for this, we literally signed a deal that essentially says we will fight Saudi Arabia's wars for them in a proxy-style fashion. That's the side end of that deal. Because people would go, well, why would they do that deal with us? Well, that's why. So we made sure that Saudi Arabia would become the number one power in the Middle East by making sure none of their enemies could rise up against them in exchange for them only accepting the American dollar. It's called the petrodollar. Swear to God, I'm not even exaggerating that shit. Fact check me. Big facts. Yeah. And I can verify that because I know motherfuckers that were like in the NSA and they're like, yeah, that petrodollar shit's legit. I've heard you spit that on the podcast. That's actually 100% true. Yeah. And these are motherfuckers that worked for the NSA and the American government, and they're like, yeah, that's totally true. We did that.
Yep. And that reinforces our economy and our power.
But our ability to criticize and hold our own our government accountable is the beauty of that. That's what I meant by the democratic process and self-correcting because of the Constitution.
Yeah,
Over time, we do correct these atrocities.
But we need to get rid of the First Amendment. We shouldn't have free speech. Yeah, we shouldn't have free speech because it might be misinformation.
Right. Oh, okay. So that's, I think, the final topic we should talk about because I know almost nothing, and I hope you know.
Well, it depends on what it is.
This new, I'm gonna call it the Ministry of Disinformation.
Oh shit! Yeah, the governance board, the disinformation governance board, or something like that.
I don't know what they're actually calling it, but basically, the government is now going to decide what's true.
Which
this is
the
communism. This is communism. This is fascism.
Mm-hmm.
This is everything that you should fear. Is when the government appoints a board to tell you what's true or not. They're telling you because you don't have the ability to learn or understand or make decisions. So the government is, and this isn't a conspiracy. This is real. This has happened. It's decided. They are creating a board.
Disinformation Governance Board or something like that.
So, right? I don't remember what it's called, but they're creating a board that's going to tell you what you should and should not believe. this is disinformation. Don't believe that. That's
and
what
this
Russia
is the
does.
Ministry of Truth.
Yeah, the Ministry of Truth is
This
like
is
an
an Orwell
old thing.
thing,
You
yeah.
can literally Google the Ministry of Truth. You'll get a whole Wikipedia page on it. But this is literally what China does. This is literally what Russia does. This is how Russia is able to justify their invasion of Ukraine because they control the truth. They have a Ministry of Truth. China has a Ministry of Truth, which is how they're able to suppress the Hong Kong protests. This is how they're going to justify the invasion of Taiwan if they do that shit. This is shit you should actually fuck the abortion argument. And this goes to some real conspiracy shit. Is like the abortion argument is to distract you from the Ministry of Truth.
Yeah, I mean that could totally be. It seems like this is being brought up at this time to avoid what's going on and other things.
Yep. Let's leak a memo.
Let's leak
a memo
Yep.
to freak everyone out. This may not even actually be on the Supreme Court's radar because they're pushing the Ministry of Truth deal.
I think,
and they go, oh my God, people are going to freak out. So here's what we do. We leak a memo. The Supreme Court has no desire to vote on this, but let's leak a memo. If they were to vote on it, this is how it would go. That'll piss people off and distract them from this Ministry of Truth.
Yeah, I think that, I do believe that some of it's true. Like, I do believe that whatever that memo was leaked is probably true. Like, there's probably still some stuff going on, but they leaked it, and now it's being pushed.
Right. So hypothetically, if they were to vote on it today, they would reverse Roe v. Wade. However, it's not on their docket. I'm saying, according to
I don't know.
They're not anywhere near looking at that. That's like 20 years down the road before they see that case. Because a lot of the Supreme Court cases have been in motion for a long time. They have to escalate from bottom courts upwards. So it's not like you can just jump the line. They have a whole, and then they decide which cases are even worth hearing or not. So somebody might have done a quick survey. If you were to vote on this, would you reverse it? Yeah, maybe they said we would, but it's not even on the fucking deal because the reason they released that information was to distract us from this Ministry of Truth thing.
Well,
I'm not surprised if that's happening.
I think there's more than one reason then, because I honestly believe that if you were like a political strategist, it was easy. Let's say everything was on the up and up with the last election. Trump was the good boogeyman to like, we got to vote him out and then have just a basic puppet president in this place, and right now you got to be honest. You got to be honest. The left fears a red wave coming. They have no boogeyman. What's the boogeyman now?
Honestly, man, I think that's one of the best things that's happened to us in a long time. Is I think both the left and the right, other than Ilhan Omar and the other communist sympathizers, honestly, man, I think this idea of a real Russian threat and a real Chinese threat, which is shit that Trump actually, and Mitt Romney, remember when Mitt Romney ran against Obama? And they said, Mitt, what do you think the greatest threat to American national security is? And he said, Russia. And Obama literally went, hey, man, the 1980s called. They want their foreign policy back. And then he dropped the mic and the crowd went wild. I even laughed. I was like, that's hilarious. I'm voting for that guy again. It was awesome. It was a great moment in politics for entertainment factor. But Mitt was right. That's the reality that we're actually living in. Mitt wasn't wrong. We laughed him off the stage, but he was actually right. Trump comes in 2016 and he's talking about Trump, fucking Hillary and Trump were both actually talking about Russia. It actually has been proven that both of them were colluding now. The more information comes out, they were both colluding. First, it was Trump being accused of colluding. Then it was Hillary. There's proof of collusion. Now there's more information coming out that's showing both of them are colluding, which is exactly what I said the whole time. They're both doing it. Because neither one cares about America. They just want themselves to be the next most powerful person on the planet. So
I don't know what the collusion was. I mean, obviously, I know
they were both warning us of it at the same time. They were both warning us of Russian collusion while they were both taking money on the back end and influencing the election. It's hilarious because it all ended up being true, and it didn't matter who was saying it. Obama, Romney, Hillary, Trump. They were all saying the same thing. Russia and China are a legitimate threat to American national security. Facts. Go look it up. I'm not making this shit up.
If you go back and look at the Cold War thing,
even Hillary talked about immigration.
We overhyped the Cold War for those reasons too. So that's even the 1980s, you know, when
I'm not sure it was overhyped anymore.
it got to a point where obviously in the 60s there was an issue, but at some point it started to cool down, and then they're like, fuck, we can't. It was too profitable. I think you'll even have like old NSA advisors and stuff sit there and say that, or I'll think of his name later. I'll post it in the comments. But he said, yeah, this was overhyped just to keep their things going. You still needed to be able to invent or have, what was it, Star Wars or whatever, where Reagan wanted to put satellites in the sky to shoot shit down, right? You know, there's still ways to justify it. So you needed to have that threat, and Russia was benefiting from it too. You know, America's the bad guys. You know, you need to have your people have a constant threat. You can't just be like at peace. If you want to spend military money all the time, you need to have a boogeyman at all times.
But the boogeyman seems real.
It can be. I mean, both things can be true at the same time. In an objective thought, both things can be true. At one point in time, it was overhyped, and then it became true, right?
Or vice versa.
Yeah, or vice versa, right. So, yeah, I mean, so at some time, they weren't a legitimate threat. Maybe they are now. I don't know. I don't know if I see it. I don't see it yet, though.
No, you're not wrong, though, because even legitimate threat becomes relative, because Russia is clearly a legitimate threat to invade other nations' sovereignty.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm telling you, they're not a threat to our sovereignty. Because if we actually join this war, bro, I'm telling you.
I don't want to join this war.
I don't either. Yeah. But if we did, I'm telling you, it would be quick. Like, it would be very quick. Like, and the only reason it would last is because of our restraint, our self-restraint, because of our ethics and our principles, and because we do obey the Geneva Convention. We do obey the United Nations and the World Court. We don't commit war crimes. We don't. And if we do, it's not sanctioned by the top of our government, and those people are definitely held accountable, except for those crazy, crazy CIA conspiracies like Operation Northwoods. Like where we were gonna fucking bomb a jet.
I was just talking about this other day.
Yeah, like those. But that's the
stage
CIA.
Mass shootings.
That's the CIA, though.
Yeah.
Right. And
well, that was the Joint Chiefs of Staff of the Department of Defense,
AKA,
justifying war
AKA
for. Yeah, right.
The CIA.
Yeah. They're the CIA is.
It was somebody in the Joint Chiefs of Staff commissioned that.
It was Lemnitzer.
It was created by the CIA. It was a joint thing.
You can actually look it up online. You can see the whole document.
Yeah, and the FBI was also involved in that one actually too.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Which is crazy because back then, before Homeland Security, they didn't have the ability to cooperate with each other. That's why we had the need to create the Homeland Security, which you and I talked about on the last podcast. We knew was tyranny back then. Both you and I were against it way back then, and people thought we were paranoid. But during Trump's administration and the George Floyd riots, Trump enacted Homeland Security and started sending unmarked fucking military out to kidnap people off the streets during the middle of protests. That's the definition of fascism.
That was in
it was Portland.
Oregon. Yeah,
it was Portland. But that's the definition of fascism.
Yeah, and
they were not given due process. They were randomly abducted off the streets.
Yeah, I still never found out what that was all about.
Of course you didn't, because that's the CIA and the FBI and the Homeland Security, and that's that's American fascism. That is literally why. And then Trump's on fucking record. The protesters should be shot in the street like dogs.
Yeah.
That was the last straw for me. That was the last straw where I was like, we're going to war. Like, fuck this guy. Let's start marching on fucking Washington. Like, this guy's got to go. Because he's talking about declaring war on American citizens. That's Hitler. That's when I finally came around to the lefty side.
Was it the FBI that had the drones for the Rittenhouse thing?
Let me finish this one end of this rant. My point is, when I went to Texas and I tried to explain to them this stuff, they said, what are you talking about? That never happened. And it hit me. The Republicans in the South do not see the same news we see in the North. They had no idea Trump ever said this shit. I had to fucking deep dive and find Google clips, which were hard to find while I was in Texas because I was on their Wi-Fi. I had to wait till I got home for a lot of them and send them back to people in Texas. And they were like, I had no idea he ever said this shit. I'm like, that's exactly why, because our media is censored. This isn't a joke, people. Like, I'm not exaggerating this, man. A lot of those Republicans in the South that you think are evil are being fed censored news. A lot of the people in the North are being fed censored news. We are not being given honest information.
Well, even
it's
if
up to personal responsibility to dig in.
Algorithms that show us what we see on Twitter and Facebook and everything like that, they're showing us two different news.
Self-censored.
Yes
when
and no.
When you like and dislike your own personal feed, you're telling the algorithm what to feed you, and you can self-censor yourself.
Correct, but it's still a system that they can still manipulate at any given time, and they've even had to admit that they've experimented on these things to make people more angry and whatever.
Let me give a shout out to Thought Police real quick. Hold that thought.
Yeah.
Hold that thought, police. Thought Police says, I got to run, but seriously, check out the lectures by John Mersheimer. Sounds like a Jew. I'm a Jew. I'm allowed to make that joke, you fucks. At the University of Chicago, 2015 in September. That's my birthday, September 25th. Vladimir Posner talks about Putin at Yale in 2018. They're both on YouTube. That sounds super interesting. I'm definitely going to have to check that out, man. I appreciate that, police. I appreciate you hanging out with us, man. Appreciate all you guys hanging out with us. Teresa, Jesse Weber. That's just the last couple of people I'm seeing in the chat. I appreciate you guys, man. I'm not watching the chat on YouTube, so if you're watching over
I was going to see if I could see any of the chat.
I'm not watching the chat on Twitch, so if you guys are over on Twitch, I apologize if you feel like we're ignoring you in your chat. I don't have the ability to see both chats right now. Glitch in the system. Hopefully that gets corrected next month. But no, man. Honestly, dude, I mean, we obviously got to wrap this up pretty quick here. But I honestly, man, I think this has been probably our best podcast together. I think we actually really.
You had your wiener out though. You're right. Okay, you're right.
It's the best show you've seen in a long time, my guy.
Maybe.
Don't lie.
Maybe.
Don't lie. I have a beautiful penis, and you were lucky to see it. But no, I think this was a great podcast, man. I've had a blast with you tonight, dude. I think we really actually did a great job of making, again, the theme of tonight was good faith, thoughtful arguments.
Yeah, for sure.
Genuine, good faith, thoughtful arguments. And I think we did that on multiple subjects tonight that are important to a lot of people right now. We did a good job of staying relevant, having a great conversation, which it always is with you, man.
Yeah.
And I think I've gotten to be a much better podcaster over the last couple of years, and I'm super excited as the last few people are chiming in right now, checking this out right now. You're starting a podcast soon.
Well,
you don't have a date, you don't have a name, but it is happening. That's part of the reason you come on so much.
Part of my issue is I want to do so many things,
Let me stop you before you start.
It's better to focus on one thing.
Stop.
I know.
Stop. You might do a YouTube channel or a podcast for a year and a half, 2 years.
Mm-hmm. And then you're going to
during that, you might shift gears. You are already suffering by paralysis by analysis. Just start a podcast when you're ready.
Yep.
When you buy your house, when you do your deal, just start. And you'll figure it out.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
And whatever you start out as may not remain, but you just got to get going.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
You don't have a name. You don't have a date.
No.
But one of the reasons you keep coming on is to kind of practice this rigmarole. And I appreciate you being here. You've expressed it's mutually beneficial. And you have selfish motives, but I genuinely love you, dude. And I
honestly believe all our
here,
interactions are kind of mutually beneficial in some sense. So it's not like
100%.
Yeah, it's not like, oh, I'm here to take advantage of you or anything like that.
Vice versa. No, but that's what my point was, is I genuinely love you, man, and I appreciate you being here because, and I've said this over and over again, and I'll say it again for anybody who this is their first time getting to know you, is online in text, sometimes you come off like an asshole and a prick.
Yeah, sometimes that's intentional. Sometimes it's intentional.
But one of the things I love most about having you on the podcast is you have legitimate integrity. You have real, genuine humanity. And there's not a lot of people I can say that about my guy.
I appreciate it.
I love you, man. I think you're one of the easiest people to respect. Even if I don't like what you say, even if I don't agree with you, it's just so easy to respect.
I appreciate it.
And I can't say that's true in our friend group, because there's a lot of people who have serious problems with you because they only interact with you online. And I think they are doing themselves a disservice, because you are one of the most thoughtful and respectful and kind people I've ever met in my life, and I think you do a great job of representing people that think like you. So I love having you on the podcast. I'm not just trying to help you out to give you a thing to plug or practice getting ready for a podcast. I genuinely think that you contribute high-level content and thought. And I hope you continue with your music career, and I hope you launch this podcast, whatever it may be, because I think whatever you end up doing, it's going to be fucking dope as fuck.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
I love you, man. You got any, where should people follow you if they're interested?
You can't follow me anywhere.
I mean, you're online.
Yeah, I'm online. But I honestly, like, I have, like, if you want to see anything I post, you have to be my friend, so you have to send a friend request.
You're one of those guys.
No,
you're going to have to change that soon, so
yeah,
keep an eye out. Keep following this podcast so you can eventually find out, because when you launch your podcast, I hope you come on here.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
And we'll hook you up with Greg.
And I am gonna try to hit the ground running on this stuff, and I'm gonna try to figure out what I'm doing. It's not. I don't think it's gonna be a paralysis issue. I think I'm gonna be trying to do too much.
Honestly, I think you're suffering right now from paralysis by analysis. Once you decide your format and what you want to do, all I'm telling you is don't be indecisive. Indecision loses more wars than bad decisions. Yep. Just start. I fucking swear to God. I'll borrow you equipment, dude. I got extra cameras. I got an interface. I'll fucking help you out. I don't give a fuck. Whatever your barrier is, I promise you, the math adds up to where you're going to be a plus. You're going to be a plus. Whatever you take, you'll give more.
Well, I hope so.
All right, man. Let's wrap it up. Love you guys. Like, subscribe, share. You know the drill. Mad love. Thank you guys for sticking with us this whole time. It's been a great journey. We're on all the audio platforms, so if you can I gotta stop talking. We're out. Love you guys.
See ya.